Chapter 1265. Elder Donqing's heart seemed to be clenched by something. He turned his head and looked at Elder Shufeng with a frown. Rongxiu isn't here. But that doesn't mean he didn't hear those words. Elder Shufeng didn't seem to notice the warning in the other party's eyes as he spoke leisurely. That princess consort was personally chosen by Rongxiu, which is enough to show his feelings. Moreover, when Rongxiu returned to the academy, he admitted that the princess consort was the person he truly loved. If he knew that Jiang Jiwan had slandered that princess consort in front of so many people, and even claimed that the position of princess consort was hers, with his personality, he wouldn't let this matter go so easily. Danqing, what do you think? Elder Donqing's expression changed slightly. Rongxiu was tough and ruthless. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to ascend to the position of the Holy Sun and take charge of the Yuntian Tower in just a few years. If he really wanted to pursue this matter, he was afraid that Jiang Ziwan's end would not be any better. In fact, in the past few years, Jiang Jiwan had deliberately made her relationship with Rongxiu sound very ambiguous. It wasn't the first time that outsiders misunderstood. However, Rongxiu was no longer in the academy at that time, so he naturally didn't care. However, it was different now. Rongxiu was here, and if he wanted to know anything, he would definitely know everything. Elder Donqing's heart slowly sank. Others might not know, but as Jiang Jiwan's master, he knew best what Rongxiu's attitude toward her. What childhood sweethearts, what elders' agreement. In fact, it was all just Jiang Jiwan's wishful thinking. Now the princess consort was living well in the Yuntian Tower. How could she allow others to slander her? I will deal with this matter, Elder Donqing said in a low voice. I won't trouble others to teach my own student. Elder Shufeng knew that he had taken it seriously, so he smiled and didn't say anything else. Although Donqing was stubborn and had seen many storms, his mind was still clear. Unfortunately, Jiang Jiwan didn't have that brain. Rongxiu was in the academy, and she dared to say such things in front of so many people. Elder Shufeng stroked his beard. I'm afraid Jiang Ziwan's future days won't be easy. Lin Qifei and Jiang Jiwan were facing each other. Between the two and Rongxiu was a floating chessboard. The two of them took turns to make their moves. In the beginning, Rongxiu zest, but gradually, she realized that something was wrong with the situation. Every time she took a step, Lin Qifei would quickly follow, and the position of his piece was always accurate. He didn't seem to need any time to react, and his movements were extremely agile. In the beginning, Jiang Jiwan could still deceive herself, comforting herself that it was just the beginning, and the game hadn't started yet. Lin Qifei had a lot of room to play, which was why he could play so smoothly. However, as time passed, more and more pieces appeared on the chessboard, and the situation became more and more complicated. Even Jiang Jiwan had to think twice before placing a piece. But Lin Qifei didn't seem to be affected at all, and was still as sharp as before. At this point, Jiang Jiwan finally felt a little powerless. She quickly looked up, but saw that Lin Qifei's expression was as calm as ever. Sensing her gaze, Lin Qifei smiled and nodded at her. Jiang Jiwan gritted her teeth. From her point of view, Lin Qifei's reaction was clearly a provocation. However, no matter how upset she was, she couldn't reverse the current situation. She became more and more anxious, and cold sweat started to form on her forehead. At this time, the onlookers had also noticed that something was wrong. They secretly exchanged meaningful glances with each other. They were all Xian masters, so of course, they could see that something was fishy. Looking at the current situation, it was obvious that Jiang Jiwan was at a disadvantage. I didn't expect Lin Qifei to be so strong. He couldn't have been hiding his strength before, right? I think it's most likely so. You have to know that Jiang Jiwan's ranking on the Azure Cloud Roll is much higher than his. But looking at the situation, Lin Qifei is actually half a head above her. If Jiang Jiwan really loses, wouldn't she lose all her face? The strong are respected. If she can't do it, someone will replace her sooner or later. I think she hasn't put much effort into her cultivation, so it's normal for her to be overtaken. I think so too. Didn't Lin Qifei just say that the princess consort of the Yuntian Tower actually won against her fair and square? That's not what she said before. If you lose, can you announce it to the others with great fanfare? Actually, it felt that something was wrong from the start. Rong Xiu is the holy son of the Yuntian Tower. How noble is his status? How could he casually marry an ordinary girl as his princess consort? Who knows how much of what Jiang Jiwen said is true, and how much of it is false? Although the person who spoke had tried to lower his voice, everyone present was not weak, so they could more or less hear it, including Jiang Jiwen. She felt even more sullen in her heart, but at this time, she couldn't even say a word of rebuttal, because what they said was the truth. When everyone didn't know the truth, she might still be able to speak ambiguously, but once they understood, she couldn't continue like that, because when the truth came out, the liar would often be the most embarrassed. Pa! Suddenly, a sound came from the chessboard. Jiang Jiwen came back to her senses and looked over, but was shocked to find that Lin Qifei's move had cut off her path. Lin Qifei said indifferently, "Senior sister Jiang Jiwen, you lost." These few casual words were like a heavy stone that ruthlessly smashed into Jiang Jiwen's heart. Her mind went blank for a moment, and she almost couldn't believe everything in front of her. She was just distracted for a moment. How did it become like this? However, on the chessboard, she was indeed completely cut. She really lost. This realization made Jiang Jiwen's legs go weak, and she almost fell to the ground. The young man who wanted to challenge her before quickly stepped forward to support her. "Ziyuan, are you all right?" Jiang Jiwen pushed him away, as if she was afraid of being contaminated by something dirty. The young man's expression darkened, and he silently retreated. Lin Qifei raised his eyebrows slightly. "Senior sister Jiang Jiwen, it seems that your strength hasn't increased since you returned from the Yuntian Tower." These words were like a slap to Jiang Jiwen's face. She stared at the chessboard, took a deep breath, and suppressed the anger in her heart with great difficulty. "I've been neglecting my cultivation recently. Thank you, junior brother Lin, for your correction." After saying that, she turned around and walked in the direction of the elders. Elder Danqing took a step forward with some worry. "Ziyuan, Master, I want to take a leave of absence." Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 1266. Jiang Ziyuan didn't wait for Elder Danqing to finish speaking and spoke first. "Junior brother Lin is right. I've been in a bad state recently, so I want to go home for a while and adjust my condition before coming back." Elder Danqing did not expect her to have such a plan and was slightly stunned. "Ziyuan, if you have any difficulties, feel free to tell me. If there's anything I can help you with, I'll do my best." Although Jiang Jiwen was a little stubborn, she was still his favorite student for several years, so Elder Danqing did not want to be too harsh on her. In the past few years, he had spent a lot of effort on Jiang Jiwen. He once thought that even if she could not become a top existence like Rong Xiu, she would be better than most people. Seeing her like this, he felt sorry for her. Jiang Jiwen shook her head and forced a smile. "Thank you for your kindness, master. But this time, I've disappointed you. It's all my fault. But don't worry. I'll come back as soon as possible after going home to adjust." Seeing that she had made up her mind, Elder Danqing knew that it was useless to persuade her anymore, so he could only nod and agree. "All right. Whenever you want to come back, I'll be waiting for you." Today, she had made a serious slip of the tongue in front of everyone and lost to Lin Qifei. It would be good for her to leave for a while. It would not be too late for her to come back after the storm subsided. Jiang Jiwen smiled gratefully. "Thank you, master. That student will take her leave today." Elder Danqing sighed inwardly and nodded. Only then did Jiang Jiwen turn around and leave. Everyone looked at each other. "She's leaving just like that? The class isn't over yet." She already lost to Lin Qifei in the competition, so why would she care about class? If I were her, I would leave too. Could it be that she can't afford to lose? It's good to have a background. She can leave and come back whenever she wants. She can do whatever she wants. Some very unpleasant words entered Jiang Jiwen's ears. She clenched her fists tightly in her sleeves and tried hard to control her expression. She stopped in front of Lin Qifei. Lin Qifei seemed to sense something and looked up. Jiang Ziyuan suddenly smiled, but the corners of her eyes and the tips of her eyebrows were still cold. Junior brother Lin, I didn't expect you to be so protective of her. You're even willing to stand up for her. If she knew about this, she would definitely be very touched, right? Her tone was very sincere, as if she was really just praising Lin Qifei. However, if one thought about it for a moment, one would feel that something was wrong. There seemed to be some ambiguity in his words. Lin Qifei's eyelids were slightly raised. In his clear pupils, there was a hint of a mocking smile. Cave Heaven Cliff is one of the 28 divisions of the Yuntian Tower. It is our duty to protect the princess. I wonder how Senior Marshal Brother Rong Xiu would react if he knew what Senior Marshal's sister Jiang Juan did today. Jiang Jiwan's expression changed. This is Lingxiao College, not the Immortal Water Mausoleum. Senior Marshal's sister Jiang Jiwan, you should be more careful with your words and actions in the future. Jiang Jiwan was so angry that she laughed. All right, Junior brother Lin, I'll come back another day to challenge you. After saying that, she lifted her feet and left quickly. She couldn't do anything to Lin Qifei in the school. But once she left, Cave Heaven Cliff would be at the mercy of the Immortal Water Mausoleum. When she returned, she would definitely teach them a lesson. After Jiang Jiwan left, the crowd fell silent for a while, then quickly returned to normal. One Jiang Jiwan was not enough for them to waste so much time and energy. The students of Lingxiao College all understood that no matter what, being strong was the most important thing. The sparring matches between the people continued. However, this time, there were clearly fewer people who wanted to challenge Lin Qifei. They had thought that he was a newcomer, but who knew that he was actually a hidden talent? Now, whoever wanted to challenge him would have to think twice about it. After some hesitation, the person who fought Lin Qifei in the end was Luo Yinming. Unsurprisingly, Luo Yinming was also defeated after a bitter battle. At this time, everyone realized that Lin Qifei's talent was even stronger than they had expected. Elder Huafeng couldn't help but smack his lips. This Lin Qifei wasn't very conspicuous before, but I didn't expect him to be so outstanding. Xu Feng, you've made a fortune this time. Elder Xu Feng was also very happy. He smiled so much that the wrinkles on his face trembled. Hee. Of course. Among the new students in the past few months, no one would dare to say that he was the second most talented Xian master among them. The most important thing was that his personality was very calm, so he didn't need to worry about him at all. Elder Huafeng raised his eyebrows. That's not. Before he could finish speaking, he thought for a moment and swallowed the rest of his words. Elder Xu Feng asked, "What did you say?" Elder Huafeng smiled and shook his head. "Nothing. Teach this disciple well. Don't let him go astray." Elder Xu Feng laughed loudly. "How can I be so picky? Don't worry. This disciple of mine is very honest and dutiful. Moreover, he has always been very interested in teleportation formations, and has been studying this recently. By the way, aren't you very good at this too? When you have time, why don't you give him some pointers?" Elder Huafeng laughed heartily and naturally agreed. In the Beast Park, night fell. The wind and clouds surged between heaven and earth. Elder Yu stood in midair and stared at the mountain peak below, waiting to make a move at any time. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1267. Suddenly, a sharp and painful cry resounded through the forest. Elder Yu looked over and vaguely saw a steelback beast's cub at the foot of the mountain. It was running back, stumbling along the way. He recognized at a glance that this was the baby steel-spine beast that had just been born not long ago. It seemed to be injured as it limped while running. A line of blood vaguely appeared behind it. Elder Yu went closer and took a closer look. He saw that there was a bloody hole in one of the baby's hind legs. It looked like some ferocious beast had forcefully bitten off a large piece of flesh. The white bones could almost be seen. Elder Yu was shocked. The steel-spine beast had rough skin and thick flesh. Among the magical beasts in the Beast Park, its physical strength could definitely be ranked in the top 3. To be able to injure it to such an extent, it was definitely not an ordinary magical beast. From the looks of it, it was most likely. But these magical beasts usually stayed out of each other's way. Why would they suddenly start fighting? Needless to say, this was still a baby. Injuring it would undoubtedly offend the adult steel spine beast. This time, it would probably be a fight to the death. Just as Elder Yu was thinking about these questions, the baby steel spine beast had already started running up the mountain peak. As it ran, it constantly let out sorrowful cries for help. Qiong, who was in charge of guarding the entrance of the cave, heard this familiar sound and immediately looked down the mountain. Their night vision was extremely strong. Even though the sky was already dark, Qiong was still able to see the scene below very quickly. A strong smell of blood assaulted them. Qiong's expression changed. Only then did she see the wound on her baby's leg. Swoosh! The steel needles on its back instantly stood up. A trace of biting cold murderous intent flashed across its eyes. Roar! It angrily raised its head and let out an angry roar. This roar was vigorous and powerful, and it instantly spread mightily through the forest. All the magical beasts knew that this was a warning. Hearing its mother's voice, the baby steel spine beast felt much more at ease. But very quickly, it was shocked to discover that the magical beast chasing after it did not stop. In fact, its speed seemed to be even faster. Swoosh! The one behind suddenly pounced. The cub hurriedly dodged and almost stumbled to the ground. During this process, its body fell onto a broken piece of wood, and a thick branch that stretched out diagonally stabbed into its wound. Roar! The steelback beast cub let out a pained hiss. But at this moment it couldn't care less. It struggled to get up, and continued to run up the mountain. Go home. As long as he returned to his mother's side, he would be safe. With that thought in mind, it ran back with all its might. Qiong saw all of this. There seemed to be 2 balls of fire burning in its eyes, as if it wanted to burn everything in front of it to ashes. It lifted its foot, and was about to rush over when it suddenly remembered that Chu Luiyue was still cultivating in the cave behind it, preparing to break through. If it left now, Chu Luiyue would be completely exposed to danger. It knew all too well what kind of trouble a human would attract when he broke through in the beast park. Qiong was struggling in her heart. In front of him was his only bloodline, and behind him was his savior. It was almost unable to make a decision. Roar! At the foot of the mountain, another cry of pain was heard. It was just that this voice was clearly much weaker than it had been at the beginning. It didn't need to look to know that its child was definitely in danger now. Its innate maternal instinct made it want to abandon everything in front of it and rush over immediately. But a trace of obsession in the depths of its heart nailed it to the ground. Finally, it lifted its leg and stomped down heavily. Boom! With this stomp, almost half of the mountain began to shake and shake. Cracks began to spread from its feet to the ground. The terrifying pressure was like a gust of wind, surging towards the ground. Before Chu Luiyue broke through, it couldn't leave this place. Normally, each family of magical beasts occupied their own territory and didn't interfere with each other. Once there was any action that crossed the boundary, they would receive warnings and threats. Most of the time, such warnings were effective. This was because in the beast park, there was not a single magical beast that could dominate the entire beast park. Everyone kept each other in check, forming a subtle balance. But now this balance was broken. The other party had ignored Qiong's repeated warnings and was going to continue attacking no matter what. Other than accepting the challenge, there was no other way. But Qiong couldn't leave at all, so how could it fight? Its cub's cries gradually weakened. Qiong looked down and could clearly see that its speed had slowed down a lot, and its body was already dripping with blood. Obviously, it couldn't hold on for much longer. There seemed to be a fire burning in its heart, and a trace of blood appeared in its eyes. Roar! This cry was sorrowful and almost crazy, but it still guarded the entrance of the cave and didn't move an inch. How could this be? Not far away, Elder Yu saw this scene and was shocked. What was that adult steel spine beast thinking? The one at the foot of the mountain that was on the verge of death was its cub. At this time, shouldn't it immediately rush over and protect it with all its might? Why was it still guarding the entrance of the cave without moving until now? Was the one in the cave really Chuyu? Elder Yu couldn't understand. Could it be that to it, Chuyu was more important than its bloodline? If he didn't see it with his own eyes, he wouldn't dare to believe that such a thing would happen. If this matter were to spread, others would probably think that he was joking. He frowned and suddenly thought of the rumors related to Chuyu. Each and every one of them was unbelievable. Originally, he didn't take Chuyu too seriously, and only thought that he was a young boy who loved to play around. No matter what, he was just a little more talented and lucky. But now he realized that he was wrong. To be able to make an adult steel spine beast willingly give up its bloodline. What exactly did Chuyu do in the beast park these few days? Actually, Chulua didn't do anything. She was just cultivating and planning to break through to rank 8 warrior. A few days had passed, and she maintained the same posture. While devouring the surrounding energy of heaven and earth, she completely merged the power stored in the water droplet with herself. Even she was shocked by the formation needed for this breakthrough, because this had long surpassed the scale of her breakthrough to rank 8 warrior in her previous life. But from the beginning to the end, she had done her best. Vaguely, she felt an invisible barrier. In her heart, she was certain that was the threshold of rank 8 warrior. She held her breath, gathered her strength, and charged toward the barrier. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1268. Rumble. A huge energy wave suddenly came out from the cave. Elder Yuyu's heart skipped a beat. This commotion. Was Chuyu really just breaking through to the 8th stage? He had cultivated for many years, and had seen many cultivators trying to break through this threshold. There was no lack of outstanding geniuses among them. However, he had never seen anyone who could cause such a huge wave. Even when some cultivators broke through to the 9th stage, there wouldn't be such a huge commotion. Elder Yuyu clenched his fists tightly, and had the urge to scold someone. Before coming in, he had clearly told Chuyu to honestly tell him his strength. At that time, he thought that he had already said it, but he didn't expect that there was still something hidden. When this matter was over, he would definitely teach Chuyu a lesson. Roar! A loud and excited roar suddenly came from another mountain peak not far away. This sound was like a mysterious mechanism had been opened in an instant. That unknown and terrifying flood had already poured down before anyone could react. Screech dash, in another direction, another sharp screech rang out. Following that, all kinds of sounds came from all directions. Those magical beasts that had quietly arrived, and had been waiting quietly finally couldn't hold back and bared their fangs. The roars that rose and fell were filled with endless greed and lust. Although the killing had yet to truly begin, the air was already filled with a thick smell of blood. Elder Yuyu's back suddenly broke out in cold sweat. The number of magical beasts that had been lured over this time was much more than what he had expected. Under the gloomy sky, figures filled with murderous intent walked out from the lofty mountains and lofty ridges, heading towards the mountain peak in the middle. Elder Yuyu lowered his head to take a look, and his scalp went numb. There were simply too many of them. The commotion caused by Chuyu's breakthrough was too big. Other than the magical beasts nearby, even some of the magical beasts in the distance sensed the commotion and rushed over. If he didn't think of a way to solve it in time, the number of magical beasts that gathered here would only increase. Elder Yuyu's body tensed up as his mind raced, hoping to find a solution as soon as possible. But how could it be so easy? Now, generally speaking, there were only 2 directions. One of them forcefully interrupted Chuyu's breakthrough and quickly brought him away from this place. The other was to drive away all these magical beasts and save Chuyu from danger. But no matter which one it was, it sounded impossible. When a cultivator wanted to break through, they needed an absolutely stable environment. Any interference could cause him to fail. In the worst-case scenario, it could cause him to never be able to cross this shackle again. If he did this, what if he ruined Chuyu? Not to mention, Chuyu still had an adult steel spine beast guarding him. A steel spine beast that was willing to give up its own cubs in order to protect him. Once it sensed that someone was approaching, what kind of power would it erupt with? Just thinking about it was frightening. As for the second method, Elder Yuyu admitted that he didn't have this ability. Even if he had been patrolling this area all year round, he would definitely not be a match for so many magical beasts. In a moment of desperation, Elder Yu finally took out his green jade token and sent out a distress signal. Chu Yu is in danger, help him. It was already nighttime. Elder Bo Yen and the others arrived at Thousand Wine Mountain and planned to continue repairing it. But just as he stood still, he suddenly sensed something, and his expression changed. Elder Ouyang and Elder Bo Yen looked at him strangely and asked, "What's wrong?" Elder Bo Yen didn't say anything and directly took out his green jade token. A line of words slowly appeared. Elder Bo Yan's pupil shrank. Sensing the change in his aura, Elder Ouyang and Elder Bo Yen looked at each other and felt uneasy. "I have something to do. I have to leave first," Elder Bo Yen hurriedly said and was about to turn and leave. "Hey, what's going on?" Elder Ouyang couldn't help but ask. They rarely saw such an expression on Elder Bo Yan's face. Elder Bo Yen paused and said, "There's a problem at the Beast Park. I'll go take a look first." Beast Park? Doesn't that mean that something happened to Chu Yu? But Yu and the others have been. Before Elder Ouyang could finish his sentence, he suddenly fell silent. This news obviously came from those few people. It could be seen that the matter was no longer within their control. "Let's go together." Shang Yusin made a prompt decision. Elder Bo Yen shook his head. "You guys can continue to stay here. After all, there's a great Xian formation at the Beast Park. Yu and the others are also there. Nothing should happen for a while. However, if you guys follow me, you'll be too big of a target and attract too much attention." Only a few of them knew that Chu Yu was locked up in the Beast Park. If this news spread, their previous efforts would be wasted. Elder Ouyang and Elder Bo Yen looked at each other and could only agree. "If there's any problem, we'll rush over immediately." Elder Bo Yen nodded. With a tap of his foot, he quickly left. Splash! The sound of water suddenly came from the mouth of the spring. Elder Ouyang instantly became alert. "What's the situation?" Shang Yusin quickly went forward and carefully checked the surroundings. He heaved a sigh of relief. "Nothing. It seems like a stone at the side fell into the spring." Elder Ouyang was skeptical and went over to take a look personally. He was only relieved after that. "It's good that nothing happened. We've already reached such a critical juncture. We can't afford to make any more mistakes." At the same time, Elder Wan Zheng, who was arranging the medicinal herbs in his residence, also received Elder Yu's message. When he saw the line of words on the green jade token, he was so shocked that he stood up abruptly and flipped the table over. The dozens of precious medicinal herbs that were neatly arranged on the table all fell to the ground and mixed together. However, Elder Wanjun couldn't care less about this. He took off and left. "I should have stayed there and not left." In the blink of an eye, his figure disappeared into the night outside the door. Boom! Another wave of energy spread out from the cave. At this moment, the Xian formation barrier in the sky suddenly flickered. Elder Yu quickly flew up, and with a wave of his sleeve, an opening appeared on the profound formation. A figure quickly rushed in. It was Elder Bo Yen. "How's Chu Yu?" Elder Bo Yen couldn't wait to ask Elder Yu when he saw him. Elder Yu didn't have time to answer before he saw another person flying over. "Disciple! Disciple!" Elder Wanzheng shouted anxiously. After entering, he saw Elder Yu and immediately went forward and grabbed his wrist. "Where's my disciple? How is he now?" Elder Yu swallowed his saliva with difficulty and pointed downwards. "There." Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1269. Elder Wanzheng and Elder Wanzheng looked in the direction of his finger, and both of them were speechless. Amidst the rolling mountain range, a towering mountain peak could be seen. It was no different from the other mountains, but at this moment, it had become the sole focus of attention. Dark clouds gathered in the sky, forming a huge vortex that was almost connected to the mountain peak. Wind and thunder roared, as if the mountain would be destroyed at any moment. Below, the surroundings of the mountain peak were already surrounded by numerous magical beasts. Some were crawling beside the rocks, some were standing on the branches, and some were hiding in the ravines. In short, all kinds of magical beasts had gathered from all directions. At first glance, the lowest level rank, 9, was at the outermost periphery, while the innermost circle was actually filled with divine beasts. The pressure of one divine beast was already very shocking, let alone when so many of them gathered together. Cold and greedy killing intent flashed in the countless pairs of cold and ruthless eyes that were looking at the mountain in the middle. Space seemed to have frozen, making people's hair stand on end. Just looking at it from afar was enough to suffocate people. Elder Wanzheng and Elder Wanzheng were stunned on the spot. They never thought that they would see such a scene after coming here. This. Elder Wanzheng opened his mouth, his lips pale. Where is Chuyu? Elder Yu swallowed his saliva with difficulty. He's in a cave on that mountain. Actually, anyone who saw this scene could easily guess Chuyu's position. Not to mention these two experienced and knowledgeable elders. He just didn't want to believe it. Because this was too frightening and worrisome. Why is he there? No, that's not right. Is he okay now? Elder Wanzheng unconsciously tightened his grip on Elder Yu's wrist. The latter knew that he was worried and hurriedly explained. Don't worry, he's still fine. However, Elder Wanzheng was still unable to calm down. Even if everything was fine now, who could guarantee what would happen in the next moment? Elder Bo Yin was relatively calmer. After looking around carefully, a trace of suspicion flashed across his eyes. Is Chuyu preparing to break through? This was basically the only answer that could cause such a situation. Elder Yu nodded. But isn't he only at the middle of the 7th rank? Even if he wants to break through, he shouldn't have caused such a huge commotion. He's not trying to break through to the peak of the 7th step. Elder Yu took a deep breath. He's trying to break through to the 8th step in one go. Elder Wanzheng subconsciously looked at him and frowned. How is this possible? Elder Yu didn't say anything, and just looked at him helplessly. Why would he need to lie about something like this? Yu is right. This is indeed not the energy of heaven and earth that can be activated when one is preparing to break through to the peak of the 7th step. I even feel that this should only happen when one is breaking through to the 9th step. Elder Bo Yan's gaze swept across the many magical beasts below, and he felt rather regretful. I can only blame myself for not making things clear to that child back then. Now that things have turned out like this. Elder Wanzheng rubbed his face hard. No, it's my dereliction of duty as a master. That day on the road, he had told Chuyu many things, but he had missed this. He clearly knew that the child had outstanding talent. But how could he forget the most important point? Elder Bo Yin patted him on the shoulder to comfort him. Wanzheng, things have already turned out like this. Let's not be in a hurry to blame ourselves. It's more important to get Chuyu out first. After all, Chuyu had just broken through to the middle of the 7th step not long ago. Who would have thought that he was going to break through again so quickly? And he was going to break through to the 8th step. This series of events had happened too quickly and too suddenly, and they didn't even have time to react. Elder Wanzheng's face was filled with worry. Save? How can we save him now? Usually, these magical beasts were more reasonable, but the current situation was special. They were controlled by impulse and greed, and couldn't listen at all. It was even more impossible to use force. Even if the few of them worked together, they wouldn't be able to defeat these magical beasts. Elder Yu saw that the two of them were filled with worry and added, actually, there's still room to turn things around. Chuyu isn't alone now. Look, at the position halfway up the mountain. The two of them followed his gaze and looked over. That's a steel spine beast? The corner of Elder Wanzheng's eyes twitched. That's right. But that steel spine beast isn't attacking Chuyu, but to protect him. As soon as he said that, Elder Bo Yin and Elder Wanzheng looked at him with an extremely strange gaze. Elder Yu smiled bitterly. It's true for roar. A roar suddenly came from not far away. Grief and despair. They all looked over, and only then did they see that there were two demonic beasts fighting on top of the mountain. No, to be precise, it should be a one-sided slaughter. The one that was attacking crazily was a golden cloud leopard that was brown all over and had golden spots on its body. On the ground in front of it, there was a steel spine beast that was covered in blood and on the verge of death. More than half of the steel needles on its back were broken, and its body was covered in wounds. There was almost no place that was unscathed. Most of them were caused by the bite of this golden cloud leopard. That's the cub of the steel-spine beast. Elder Yu sighed helplessly. In order to protect Chuyu, its mother chose to stay in the cave and didn't go down to save it. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1270. It sounds unbelievable, right? But it is the truth. I saw it with my own eyes. Of course, all of you have witnessed it now. Elder Yu shook his head. I don't know what Chuyu did to make that adult steel-spine beast act like this. It would rather sacrifice its own bloodline to protect him. Elder Bo Yen and Elder Yu were shocked and fell silent. But even with that steel-spine beast, he might not be able to hold on for long. Elder Yu looked at the sky. It usually takes a long time to break through to rank 8. I am not sure when Chuyu will be able to break through. But once these magical beasts attack together, I am afraid. Not to mention, Chuyu might fail to break through. That would be even worse. Elder Bo Yen suddenly said. If we can lure the tiger away from the mountain. That won't work. Chuyu was about to break through and countless heaven and earth energy was being mobilized by him. In the eyes of these magical beasts, there was nothing more desirable than this. Elder Yu had been guarding the beast park for many years, and was more experienced than the others. If even he said so, it meant that it was really impossible. And under such circumstances, it is basically impossible for us to get close to that mountain and take him away. The adult steel-spine beast in front of the cave will obviously fight to the death against the invaders. We are included in that. Also, there are so many magical beasts watching us. If we break in now, not only will it not help the situation, it might even agitate them and force them to attack. This won't work, that won't work. Then what should we do? Elder Wanzheng couldn't help but shout at Elder Bo Yen. Look, I told you not to send him here. Danger. You didn't listen. Bo Yen, if anything happens to my disciple, I will not let you off. Facing Elder Wanzheng's anger, Elder Bo Yen didn't get angry. This is Lingxiao College. The dean isn't here, so I am in charge. With me here, I will not let anything happen to Chuyu. His sonorous tone gradually calmed Elder Wanzheng down. He closed his eyes. Bo Yen, I am sorry. I lost my composure just now. Let's not talk about this now. The most important thing is to think of a way to bring him out. Rumble. Another shocking energy ripple came from the cave. Elder Bo Yen clenched his fists and hesitated for a long time. Let's wait for him to break through first. Halfway up the mountain, the golden cloud leopard coldly stared at the steel-spine beast cub in front of it. The thick smell of blood permeated the air. It was a divine beast. Dealing with a 9th-grade cub like this was a piece of cake. Moreover, the only adult steel-spine beast that could protect it had been guarding the mountain all this time, and had not come down. The golden cloud leopard looked up and licked its paws as if provoking Lin Fan. Of course, Aqiong could see all of this clearly. Its eyes were scarlet red, filled with frenzied anger and hatred. There was no doubt that once it had the chance, it would kill the golden cloud leopard below. However, it did not move. It was like a city wall, firmly blocking the entrance of the cave, carefully protecting Chu Luiyue inside. Only that pair of eyes stared at the golden cloud leopard's every move. It remembered every single wound that the other party had left on its child's body. As long as Chu Luiyue broke through, it would repay this pain 1,000 times over on the golden cloud leopard. Seeing the hatred in Aqiong's eyes, a hint of satisfaction appeared in the golden cloud leopard's eyes. It wanted the other party to feel this pain. It wanted it to see its cub being killed with its own eyes. It was extremely difficult for steel-spine beasts to have children. Some would only give birth to one cub in their entire life. This caused them to dote on and value their children very much. Some steel-spine beasts would even die of depression after losing their children. This one was probably no exception. Thinking of this, the golden cloud leopard became even more arrogant and proud. It tilted its head and looked at the steel-spine beast cub lying on the ground, almost dead. At this moment, the steel-spine beast cub was already numb from the pain. It did not even have the strength to stand up. It tried its best. The only thing it could do was to turn its head with difficulty and look halfway up the mountain. Mother and cub looked at each other from afar. Its eyes were filled with longing, desire, and despair. It seemed to want to shout again, but its throat could no longer make a sound. It could only pant like a broken bellows. After several failed attempts, it finally gave up and slowly closed its eyes. 2 streams of tears fell from the steel-spine beast cub's eyes. The golden cloud leopard jumped onto its body, opened its bloody mouth, and bit towards the steel-spine beast cub's throat. It would definitely die with this bite. Cheong trembled violently, and subconsciously wanted to close its eyes. But it did not. It wanted to see clearly how the other party killed its cub. It endured silently, but 2 streams of blood tears rolled down. The golden cloud leopard's sharp fangs flickered with a cold light. It lowered its head and bit. Swoosh! An extremely sharp sound of something tearing through the air rang out. The golden cloud leopard was shocked and immediately dodged to the side. However, it was fast, but that cold wind was faster. It had not even completely jumped away from the steel-spine beast cub, when the space between its eyebrows was suddenly pierced from behind by a sharp sword. However, this was not the end. The sword actually brought it out and nailed it to the ground. Blood splattered everywhere. Its body stiffened, its eyeballs popped out, and half of its head was deformed. It was miserable and terrifying. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1271. This sudden sword strike shocked everyone on the spot. The surroundings of the mountain fell into a strange silence. However, Cheong reacted instantly and looked back excitedly. A slender figure was walking out of the deep and serene cave. It was Chu Luwa. She walked over step by step, landing silently, her movements comfortable and natural. Her every move seemed to be filled with an indescribable elegance and freedom. Even the wind seemed to be especially gentle when it passed by her. The sky was very dark at the moment, but when she appeared, the surroundings seemed to light up in an instant. She looked the same as before, but vaguely, there seemed to be something different. That was a change that would only occur after she became stronger. Cheong, what are you spacing out for? Hurry up and bring it back. Chu Luwa stood still and smiled at Cheong. Cheong suddenly came back to her senses, nodded vigorously and ran down. Bang! Bang! Its body was extremely large. When it ran down the mountain, it looked like it wanted to trample the entire mountain. But it was extremely fast, and the distance wasn't very far to begin with. It arrived in the blink of an eye. It carefully lowered its head and cautiously and lovingly nudged the head of the steel-spine beast cub lying on the ground. A sparkling radiance appeared on its silver horn. It moved closer and touched the cub's horn with its horn. A warm and majestic power instantly flowed into the cub's body. The steel-spine beast cub that had been despairing and waiting for death didn't wait for that fatal blow. Instead, it felt a familiar presence. It slowly opened its eyes and saw its mother whom it was most familiar with. It stared blankly, as if it didn't understand what had happened. Cheong carefully carried it and walked back step by step. With the support of its power, the dying steel-spine beast cub recovered a portion of its strength. It only vaguely understood what had happened when it was placed in front of its own cave again. Its injuries are quite serious. I'll give it some medicine first to stabilize its situation. Later, I'll treat it carefully and nurse it back to health. As Chu Luwa spoke, he took out a bottle, poured out 5 pills, and fed them to the steelback beast cubs. A normal person would only need 1 pill, but the steel-spine beast had a huge body, so 5 pills were more or less enough. The cub didn't struggle and swallowed it obediently. Cheong stuck close to its face. Her eyes were still blood red, but the hatred and despair in them had already disappeared. What replaced it was endless joy and gratitude. The mother and son quietly snuggled together, as if nothing could separate them. Chu Luwa felt a lump in his throat when he saw this. He solemnly said to Cheong, Cheong, this time. Thank you. All the emotions, gratitude, shame, comfort, were gathered in these few words. Although Chu Luwa had been in the cave the whole time, and did not see what had happened with her own eyes, she had been paying attention to her surroundings before and after her breakthrough. She could roughly guess what had happened. She never thought that Cheong would be willing to give up her own child for her. This shocked and touched her. but also made her feel guilty and guilty. I will help it recuperate. Chu Luiyue paused. Also next time, don't do this again. Ah Cheong shook her head. If she had to do it again, she would still make the same choice. For her child, she could give up her own life to avenge it. But she wanted her to live. Chu Luiyue's heart seemed to be blocked by something, and tears welled up in her eyes. She took a deep breath, and a bright and proud smile bloomed on her lips. I was wrong. There won't be a next time. She would never allow such a thing to happen again. You stay here and guard it. Leave the rest to me. As Chu Luiyue spoke, she stepped forward and raised her hand. Swish. The sword that killed the golden cloud leopard quickly flew back. Sharp, cold, and majestic. It was Scarlet Cloud Sword. Chu Luiyue held the sword hilt tightly. It was slightly cold to the touch, and the eyes of the dragon head on the hilt flickered with a cold luster. However, Chu Luiyue's heart was burning with passion. Even though Chu Luiyue had already predicted that Qi Xiao Sword's prowess would be many times stronger than all the Yuan instruments she had before, its frightening destructive power still shocked Chu Luiyue when it was truly used. When Chu Luiyue threw out the sword, she actually didn't inject any force into it. She even casually threw out the sword due to the urgent situation back then, and controlled it to kill the golden cloud leopard with her thoughts. In the end, it killed it with one blow. One had to know that the golden cloud leopard was a real divine beast. From this, one could see the power of Scarlet Cloud Sword. A venerable artifact. It was indeed worthy of its reputation. Chu Luiyue lowered her gaze to take a look. After killing a divine beast, Scarlet Cloud Sword was still bright and clean, without a trace of blood. The surroundings were completely silent. The roars of various magical beasts that were previously filled with all kinds of roars came to an abrupt end the moment the golden cloud leopard was killed. Among those present, the lowest level was a 9th grade magical beast. Of course, they were not stupid. At the very least, after witnessing the scene just now, they would not treat Chu Luiyue as a piece of meat that could be slaughtered on a chopping board. Chu Luiyue looked up, and her cold eyes swept across the surrounding magical beasts one by one. Her red lips curled into a cold smile. Who's next? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1272. It was still dead silent. Only the night breeze blew through the mountains, causing her clothes to flutter. The young man standing on the mountain had a slender figure, but at this moment, he straightened his back and confronted the beasts. Most importantly, he didn't lose in terms of aura. Elder Yu and the other two were standing in the air. When they saw this scene, they were all stunned on the spot. Their expressions turned sluggish for an instant. Is this really my disciple Chu Yu? Elder Wan Zheng felt his throat dry up as he stuttered out the question. As soon as he said this, he wanted to give himself a slap. What kind of nonsense was this? If that wasn't his precious disciple, who else could it be? Look at that face. Look at that figure. Look at that imposing aura. And that scarlet cloud sword. Wasn't that the precious disciple that he had been longing for? Rank 8. He really broke through to become a rank 8 warrior. Elder Bo Yin muttered softly, his eyes filled with shock. Breaking through to become a rank 8 warrior was definitely not that simple. Many cultivators had to start preparing in advance in order to cross this threshold, and used almost all their means. However, those who could successfully break through were few and far between. The most important thing was that the more talented a cultivator was, the more difficulties and troubles they would face when breaking through this hurdle. This was because after becoming a rank 7 warrior, every step they took would greatly affect their future development. Every step they took was as if they were treading on thin ice, and they couldn't afford to make any mistakes. Chu Yu definitely had outstanding talent in this aspect. However, he actually broke through so casually on a broken mountain in the Beast Park. He could still clearly remember the shocking phenomenon in the sky, and the terrifying commotion that came from the cave when they had just rushed over. This proved Chu Yu's talent as a warrior, but it also made them more worried. Elder Bo Yin was almost certain that Chu Yu wouldn't succeed. However, it had only been a short while, and he actually succeeded. Chu Yu even killed a mythical beast with a single slash. If it was someone else, even if they broke through to rank 9, they might not be able to do it, let alone rank 8. Comparatively speaking, Elder Yu was the calmest of the three. He had been here the whole time, and had almost witnessed the whole thing, so he was already mentally prepared. Of course, his ability to accept it was much higher than the other two. He took a deep breath and comforted her. Boyan Wanzheng, you can relax a little. Normally speaking, this is the most dangerous time. The origin power around a cultivator, who has just broken through, has a fatal attraction to these magical beasts. Under normal circumstances, they would have attacked by now. However, because Chuyu had taken the lead and killed a golden cloud leopard, they were rather wary of him. If they choose to retreat after some consideration, then this matter will be completely resolved. Elder Yu's words lifted the spirits of Elder Wanzheng and Elder Wanzheng. If that was the case, then it would be for the best. If the two sides fought, both sides would definitely be injured. If these magical beasts were smart enough and tactful enough to choose to give up on attacking, it would undoubtedly save everyone a lot of trouble. Now is a critical moment in the confrontation between the two sides. Once these magical beasts saw that Chuyu had the slightest bit of cowardice and fear, they would definitely attack. Whether they succeed or not depends on Chuyu, Elder Yu said in a low voice. In the deathly silent confrontation, no magical beast stepped forward. However, they didn't back off at all, and just stared at Chu Luyue with their greedy and ruthless eyes. Of course, at this moment, there was a hint of wariness in their eyes. Before this, they had only sensed a great temptation, so they had gathered over without caring about anything else. But now, they all realized that behind this temptation was great danger. That insolent golden cloud leopard was a precedent. Those who want to fight, just come forward. Those who want to give up, step back. Chu Luyue was a little impatient and raised her voice. I will count to 3. Those who do not move will also be considered as fighting. Saying so, she raised her other hand and stretched out a slender white finger. 1. A small group of magical beasts started to become restless. 2. The magical beasts standing in the innermost circle also started to look at each other, obviously trying to find out what the other was thinking. And some of the 9th grade magical beasts in the outer circle had already started to retreat. That human who had just broken through was indeed very tempting, but before they wanted anything, they had to ensure that they could stay alive to enjoy it. In any case, there was a group of divine beasts in front, and they would not get anything in the end, so they might as well leave. Chu Luyue narrowed her eyes and shouted one last time. 3. This time, about half of the magical beasts standing in the middle of the circle also started to retreat. And the divine beasts in the innermost circle still did not move. Oh, that was not it either. One of them took a step forward. It was a wolf. Its fur was black and shiny, but there was a smear of gold on its forehead, and a pair of wings on its back. Its eyes were very special. There were no pupils, only the whites of its eyes, and they emitted a white light. At first glance, it looked very strange. A golden black demon wolf? Chu Luyue raised her eyebrows. This was also a divine beast, and its explosive power and combat strength were extremely strong, even stronger than the golden cloud leopard. Of course, if it did not have the strength, it would not have dared to take this step. Hearing her words, the golden black demon wolf lowered its body slightly, revealing its sharp teeth, and let out a low growl from its throat. This was a sign that it was preparing to attack. Chu Luyue laughed. Good, looks like you want to fight with me. As she spoke, she turned her gaze and looked at the other magical beasts around her. After a moment, she retracted her gaze. With a flick of her wrist, the light as a feather scarlet heaven sword drew a beautiful arc in the air and pointed at the golden black demon wolf from afar. Come. As soon as she finished speaking, Chu Luyue pushed off with the tip of her foot and soared into the air. At the same time, the golden black demon wolf also flapped its wings and rose into the air. It went straight for Chu Luyue. When the 3 elders who were watching from afar saw this, a trace of worry flashed across their faces. Golden black demon wolf? This is one of the strongest magical beasts in the Beast Park, and it is cunning and extremely difficult to deal with. Can Chuyu do it alone? Elder Wanzheng could not help but ask. Elder Yu laughed bitterly. This is really hard to say. Chuyu being able to kill the golden cloud leopard with one strike was already quite unexpected. To be honest, I feel that her current strength should be much stronger than the average beginner level 8 stage. So this victory is really hard to say. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1273. Of course, he hoped that Chuyu could win. With the death of the golden cloud leopard, he was certain that Chuyu could defeat 1/5 of the divine beasts here with his current strength. Although the golden cloud leopard was considered quite powerful here, it had been fighting with the steel spine beast for a long time, and its combat power must have been reduced. Therefore, Elder Yu naturally lowered the ratio. But even if it was only 1/5, it was already very outstanding. The Stage 9 warriors in the academy might not even be able to defeat one of the divine beasts here. Even if most of the credit went to the Scarlet Heaven Sword, it was Chuyu's, so of course, it was also a part of her strength. He paused and lowered his voice. This golden black fiend wolf has a high status in the Beast Park. If Chuyu can defeat it this time, he will definitely be able to force the other beasts to retreat. In midair, Chu Luiyue and the golden black fiend wolf faced each other. Chu Luiyue sized it up and shook her head. TSK, what a pity. A trace of confusion flashed across the golden black fiend wolf's eyes. It obviously did not understand where Chu Luiyue's words came from. Chu Luiyue smiled. I wanted to help you find a master, but based on your temperament, I don't think you will submit to anyone. The golden black fiend wolf's fur instantly stood up. Its murderous aura was awe-inspiring. Obviously, Chu Luiyue's words offended it. Chu Luiyue held the Scarlet Heaven Sword tightly and brandished it. There was one more thing she did not say. She had already decided to use it as an example, so it had to die. Awoo! The golden black fiend wolf raised its head and howled. In the next moment, it moved and quickly flew toward Chu Luiyue. With a flap of its wings, it suddenly split into two. It flanked Chu Luiyue from both sides. Elder Yu frowned. The golden black fiend wolf is extremely fast, and it has a clone that is almost as powerful as the real body. We have to kill both the real body and the clone to truly kill it. Otherwise, as long as it has a breath left, it can come back again. I wonder if Chuyu will be able to handle it this time. Elder Boyin suddenly said. Doesn't he have a contracted divine beast? Why hasn't he summoned it yet? If the man and the beast join forces now, they might have a chance of winning. Elder Wanzheng was so nervous that he couldn't even speak. He clenched his fists and his palms were sweaty. Elder Yu knew that he was worried. After thinking for a moment, he advised. Actually, if Chuyu really can't handle it, we can find an opportunity. Chi. Two short sounds of sharp weapons piercing flesh rang out almost at the same time. Elder Yu's throat seemed to have been strangled by someone, forcing him to swallow the rest of his words. He widened his eyes in shock, not knowing what to say for a moment. Because in the air not far in front of them, the golden black demon wolf's true body and doppelganger were both pierced through. It hit the center of the eyebrows, a fatal blow. He didn't even have time to cry for help before he died. The one on the left was Scarlet Heaven Sword. As for the right, when Elder Yu saw it clearly, he couldn't help but gasp. It was actually a scabbard. The scabbard looked ordinary, and its entire body was round and blunt. Logically speaking, it shouldn't have been able to pierce through a golden black demon wolf's flesh. But the truth was right in front of them. From the beginning to the end of this battle, Chuyu still only used one strike. Chu Luiyue raised her hand and called Scarlet Heaven Sword back. The moment the sword and scabbard were pulled out, the figure on the left disappeared instantly. The one on the right quickly fell down. A moment later, a muffled sound came from below. Clang! Scarlet Heaven Sword returned to its scabbard. What made Chu Luiyue satisfied was that not only Scarlet Heaven Sword's body, but its scabbard also didn't have a single trace of blood on it. Other than an extremely faint smell of blood, it didn't look like she had just killed a divine beast. Her movements were smooth and her mood was relaxed. However, the other demonic beasts present, and even the three elders, were all in disarray. What's going on? A scabbard can also kill. And it's the real body. They didn't even see clearly when the scabbard appeared. And in the next second, It directly exploded the golden black demon wolf's head. Chu Yu's move, isn't it a little too abnormal? Countless gazes fell on Chu Luyue. She calmly adjusted her breath, then looked down and raised the corner of her lips. Anything else? In fact, her current state wasn't as good as it looked, because using Scarlet Heaven Sword twice had taken a huge toll on her. The first time, it wasn't obvious. At that time, she had just broken through, and coincidentally, the steelback beast's cub was in danger. She was highly focused and didn't pay attention to anything else. But this time, she clearly felt that after she used the sword, a considerable portion of her strength and spirit had been consumed. If a person wanted to maintain the best battle state, it didn't only depend on the amount of force in the body, but also on spirit, willpower, and many other aspects. Just like now, Chu Luyue actually didn't inject any force into Scarlet Heaven Sword twice, and it was very light when she picked it up and put it down. But the price of using it wasn't small. After a short silence, some of the magical beasts began to retreat, and the divine beasts in the innermost area seemed to be wavering. Chu Luyue raised her sword and pointed downward, but before she could say anything, a familiar voice sounded in her ears. Chu Yu, wait! Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1274. Chu Luyue turned to look. The person who spoke was Elder Yu Yu. His figure flashed, and he quickly headed over here. Seeing his movement, Elder Wanzheng and Elder Yu Yu immediately followed. Perhaps it was because Chu Luyue had dealt with the golden black fiendish wolf too quickly, that the rest of the beasts were afraid. Thus, when they saw the actions of the three elders, they did not make any extreme reactions. Instead, they stared vigilantly at the sky. Chu Yu. Elder Yu Yu came in front of Chu Luyue and sized her up. He finally heaved a sigh of relief. However, when his eyes met with Chu Luyue's, the emotions in his eyes were complicated. You don't continue fighting this round. Chu Luyue was taken aback. Soon after, he saw Elder Yu Yu's face reveal a troubled and distressed expression. The Academy spent a lot of effort to nurture the godly beasts in this beast park. It's fine if you kill 2 of them as a warning. If you really kill all of them, this beast park will. Chu Luyue suddenly understood. So it was reasonable. Thinking about it carefully, it was understandable. Among the beasts in the beast park, there were quite a number of godly beasts, not including the grade 9 ones. Some of these godly beasts had been raised here since a long time ago. Some were brought back from the outside by the elders and students through various means. The existence of the beast park was not meaningless. Some outstanding students would sometimes have the opportunity to enter the beast park and choose a beast to contract with. Of course, the prerequisite was that they had to be strong enough to take it down. This was considered a huge asset to the Academy. You rushed over so quickly just to say this? Elder Wanzheng looked at him in disbelief. Are you kidding me? His precious disciple had almost died here. This fellow's first thought was to ask Chu Yu to stop fighting? Elder Yu Yu's face turned red. He coughed and signaled Elder Bo Yin with his eyes. Wanzheng, I don't have a choice, do I? It's not easy for our academy to raise these divine beasts. Although they threatened Chu Yu earlier, they didn't actually do anything. Furthermore, after the golden black demonic wolf's example, they definitely won't be willing to continue fighting with Chu Yu. It's best to reconcile now. Bo Yen, don't you agree? Elder Bo Yen pondered for a moment and nodded. What you said makes sense. Wanzheng, I know that you feel sorry for Chu Yu, but if you continue to let him continue killing, things will only move in the opposite direction when they reach an extreme. Elder Bo Yin patted him on the shoulder. For Chu Yu's sake, we have to know when to stop. Although Elder Wanzheng was angry, he wasn't someone who couldn't listen to reason. Seeing that Bo Yen and Elder Yu Yu both had the same attitude, he struggled for a while before finally agreeing reluctantly. He flicked his sleeves and snorted. Then you have to compensate our Chu Yu well. What happened today, if it wasn't for his own ability perhaps. He couldn't bear to say the following words, but everyone present understood what he meant. Elder Bo Yen also smiled. Don't worry about that. Chu Yu has suffered a lot today. Even if you don't say it, I won't mistreat him. As he spoke, he looked at Chu Yu. Chu Yu, this matter is indeed caused by my lack of consideration. Whatever you want, just say it. This old man will do his best to satisfy you. Chu Liyue blinked. This student doesn't want anything now. I wonder if I can keep it first, and exchange it with you in the future? Elder Bo Yin naturally agreed. Everything is up to you. Chu Liyue smiled. Thank you, Elder Bo Yin. Why are you thanking him? Elder Wanzheng stepped forward and grabbed Chu Liyue's wrist. If it wasn't for him, would you have suffered so much? He was really scared to death just now. Chu Liyue patted his hand comfortingly and smiled. Master, don't worry, aren't I fine now? Besides, if I didn't come here, I might not have broken through so quickly. Speaking of this, Elder Wanzheng finally swept away his previous sorrow and became happy and excited. A Stage 8 warrior. In Lingxiao College, this level wasn't considered high, especially for the warriors. It was almost not even enough to enter the school. But Chu Yu was only 16 years old now, and he majored in celestial physician. Under such circumstances, he had successfully broken through to a Stage 8 warrior. How could he not be excited and proud? Needless to say, this kid had already silently broken through to become a level 9 mystic master. Elder Wanzheng was still worried that his precious disciple would be abducted, and was very concerned about the direction he wanted to focus on. But now he suddenly thought it through. What was there to care about? His disciple was top-notch in all aspects, and as his master, he could only bask in his glory. Anyway, his disciple was his. In the future, not only would he be a celestial physician, but he might even be able to go to the mystic master and warrior side to show off to those old fellows. Elder Wanzheng felt that it was worth it. It's all because you worked hard. Seeing that Elder Wanzheng was finally appeased, Chu Liyue turned around and asked, Elder Yu, even if I'm willing to reconcile, the mythical beasts below don't seem to have any intention of leaving. I'll talk to them. Elder Yu heaved a sigh of relief. As long as Chu Yu agreed, the rest would be easy. Actually, the remaining mythical beasts might not really want to continue fighting with Chu Yu, but as mythical beasts, they were very prideful. They had already forced themselves to the front, and if they left just like that, they would appear too cowardly. To be honest, if they really wanted to devour Chu Yu like before, they would have already attacked together just now. Why would they wait until now? Not to mention directly letting the three of them come over. He had stayed in this beast park for a long time, and he was very clear about this. Hence, Elder Yu stepped forward and looked down. His dignified gaze swept across the mythical beasts that had yet to leave. Today's matter was started by you all. Chu Yu killed the golden cloud leopard and the golden black demon wolf in order to protect himself. His deep and sonorous voice reverberated throughout the area. Chu Yu came here to accept his punishment, and he has no other intentions. He has never really wanted to kill you all. For the next period of time, as long as you all live in harmony, he will leave when the time is up. For our sake, both sides should take a step back and let this matter rest. How about it? Elder Yu said the last sentence very sincerely. He admired Chu Yu very much, and he also had feelings for the Beast Park. Of course, he did not want to see both sides continue to fight. If they could reconcile, that would be the best. After a short moment of silence, one of the mythical beasts finally retreated slowly. Once there was a beginning, the rest would follow suit. 2, 3. Soon, all the mythical beasts in the surroundings retreated. Their figures were hidden in the mountains. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1275. The night sky was dark and the mountain wind was silent. As the magical beasts retreated, the thick smell of blood and killing intent that filled the air seemed to have quietly dissipated. The surroundings quietened down and gradually returned to its original state. Elder Bo Yan's hanging heart finally settled down. This was indeed the best ending. Chu Liyue's gaze swept across the dark forest, and there were ripples in the still water. Wait, Yu, what did you mean by that? Elder Wanzheng suddenly reacted. You said that for the rest of the time. Does Chu Yu still want to continue staying here? Elder Yu was also stunned and subconsciously looked at Elder Bo Yan. But it was said that it would be a month. It has only been less than 10 days, I thought. No one said that Chuyu would be allowed to go back from today onwards. He naturally thought that it would continue. That was why he said that. Boyan, tell me, is the punishment still going to continue? Elder Wanzhong stared and asked. His precious disciple had almost died here. He did not believe that Boyan would have the face to let Chuyu continue to stay here. Elder Boyan also had a headache. The reason he sent Chuyu over was to teach him a lesson and grind down his temper, so that he wouldn't always be ignorant of the severity of the matter and boldly go out to cause trouble. But he did not expect that such a thing would happen. He had also seen the situation just now clearly. It was indeed a perilous situation. If not for Chuyu's outstanding performance, they might not have been able to save him in such a short time. After this incident, the lesson and warning for Chuyu should be enough. Leaving now was not a big deal. But when he thought about how every time this kid made a mistake, they would give him all kinds of punishments, but it seemed to be useless. Elder Boyan felt an inexplicable grievance in his heart. After hesitating for a moment, he finally spoke. Since he has already experienced this here, then let's just return. Student wants to continue staying here. Chu Luyue suddenly opened his mouth and interrupted Elder Boyan's words. The three elders looked at him in shock. Disciple, what did you say? Elder Wanzhong was shocked and hurriedly winked at him. This was such a good opportunity to leave this place in an honorable manner. Why was this child so stubborn? What's so good about staying here? Do you think it's not dangerous enough today? Chu Luyue smiled. Master, today is a special day. It's all my fault for being careless and forgetting that I can't achieve a breakthrough in the Beast Park. That's why I've attracted so much trouble. I came here to receive my punishment. If I were to stay here for a few days and leave, it doesn't seem appropriate. Therefore, this student is willing to continue staying here until the last day of the 1-month period. His words were extremely sincere. Elder Wanzhong originally wanted to say a few more words of advice, but after seeing the young man's resolute expression, he finally swallowed his words. He waved his hand and turned his head away. Up to you. No matter what, you have to come out in one piece, understand? Chu Luyue knew that he had a sharp tongue but a soft heart, so he smiled happily. Don't worry, master. I will definitely do as you say. Chu Luyue's words made Elder Boyan see her in a new light. Initially, he thought that Chuyu would take this opportunity to leave directly. The Beast Park was dangerous. After today's incident, Chuyu should be more aware of this fact. Under such circumstances, he still chose to stay. It was really rare. It was time to get to know this young man again. Elder Boyan thought to himself. All right, since Chuyu said so, we will continue according to our previous agreement. As long as you behave yourself during the remaining time, these magical beasts should not deliberately make things difficult for you. After all, with the lesson learned from the previous incident, anyone who wanted to deal with Chuyu would have to think twice. Chu Luyue nodded her head. Thank you, Elder Boyan. Elder Yu, who was at the side, suddenly thought of something, and his expression changed slightly. He stared at Chu Luyue closely, and his eyes were filled with questions. Wait, Chuyu, how do you know that I can't achieve a breakthrough in the Beast Park? After he finished speaking, the few of them quieted down. When the three elders met, they had already expressed that they did not tell Chuyu about this matter. But just now, he said that he had forgotten. Other than the elders in charge of patrolling here, almost no one else knows about this. But you already knew? One could not blame Elder Yu for being suspicious, but this matter was indeed strange, because very few people knew about this, and even fewer people knew that Chuyu was imprisoned here at the same time. How did Chuyu know about this? Under the scrutinizing gaze of the three elders, Chu Luyue's expression did not change, and he chuckled. It was Senior Rongxiu who told me. Elder Boyan frowned slightly. He did not know that you were imprisoned here. In actual fact, he and Elder Wanzhong had discussed and decided on this matter together. Before that, Rongxiu had already gone to another place to receive his own punishment. Ouyang and Shang Yusin knew about this, because he had mentioned it on Thousand Wine Mountain. But Rongxiu definitely did not. Chu Luyue paused for a moment before she smiled deeply and said, You're right. Before I came to the academy, Senior Rong Xiu specially told me about this. The three of them looked at each other. This explanation seemed to make sense. After all, Rong Xiu had even taught him how to open the academy's barrier. What else could he not say? In that case, it was quite normal for Chuyu to know about this. He has been teaching you all sorts of nonsense. Elder Wan Zheng snorted coldly. He did not teach the good things, but he did teach all the bad things. Ordinary students were not allowed to enter the Beast Park, but Rong Xiu had already told them about this. Could it be that he had already predicted that Chuyu would come here? Forget it. It's good that you know, but you must not be careless in the future. Elder Bo Yin reminded. It's getting late, we should go back first. Chu Liyue bowed respectfully. Elder, take care. Master, take care. After dealing with these matters, Chu Liyue returned to the mountain peak, where she was previously. Halfway up the mountain, Qiong was still guarding there. When she saw Chu Liyue return, the last trace of worry in her eyes finally dissipated. Chu Liyue walked over. Alright, those troubles have been solved. Let's go back first, I'll take a good look at it. Qiong nodded, rubbed the steel spine beast cub lying on the ground lovingly, and then brought it into the cave. After walking in, Chu Liyue helped it to do a detailed examination. Don't worry, most of its flesh wounds will be fine after a period of recuperation. Chu Liyue had to rejoice that the steel spine beast's physical strength was so strong that it could still hang on to its last breath even after being injured like this. She touched the steel spine beast cub's head. This time, I owe you and your mother, and I will definitely repay it 100 times in the future. Let me give you a name. Let's call you Tao Tao. I hope that in the future, you can always be as naive and naughty as you are now, healthy and worry-free. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1276. Tao Tao rolled his big eyes, and it seemed that he was quite satisfied with the name. In fact, at the beginning, he was jealous and resentful of Chu Liyue, especially when he was in a desperate situation and constantly sent signals for help to his mother. But he never got a response. He and his mother depended on each other. From the beginning of his memory, his mother had always treated him very well. He often made trouble outside, and his mother always protected him and didn't let any animals bully him. But when this person came, everything suddenly changed. He found that in his mother's heart, this person was more important than him. When he thought that he was going to die, this kind of emotion reached the peak. But she saved him, and her eyes were full of guilt and apology. Tao Tao suddenly felt that he couldn't be angry anymore. Especially the smell of her body was very good, which made him want to get close to her unconsciously. Yes, he wanted to get close to her at the beginning, but it was a pity that she seemed to misunderstand. His mother also kicked him several times for this. Tao Tao glanced at his mother, thinking of her despair and sadness when she ran towards him, and suddenly he was relieved. He closed his eyes and rubbed gently in Chu Liyue's palm. Chu Liyue felt warm in her heart. She went to the side, took out the medicine tripod and herbs, and began to prepare to refine medicine. Boom! A ball of crimson flame burned fiercely in the medicinal cauldron. The big cave was lit up. A lot of herbs were thrown in by Chu Liyue in an orderly way. A strong smell of medicine, with a bit of bitterness, gradually spread. Chu Liyue looked at the rising flame in the medicine tripod, and the medicine soup that gradually merged together. And then she exhaled gently. She had to say, it was really cool after breaking through to the 8th stage. Her vigilance to the surroundings improved a lot, and her whole body seemed to have been baptized, light and free. Even when she was refining medicine, she felt a lot easier. This breakthrough finally digested the force that she had robbed from Taizu in the North Sea. But in addition, there was actually more power stored in the water droplets. Those things would only appear when he made a breakthrough in the future. Chu Liyue even felt lucky that she broke through in the Beast Park this time. Although many evil beasts besieged her, it was scary but not dangerous. Most importantly, the only people who had witnessed her breakthrough were those few elders. Ordinary practitioners would never have such a movement when they broke through to the 8th stage. The more people knew it, the more difficult it was for her to hide her identity. She didn't have to worry about these people. But if she wanted to break through in the future, she was afraid that she had to prepare in advance. After her abilities increased, Chu Liuyue's refining speed became much faster. After a while, she fed the decoction to Tao Tao. Then she dealt with some herbs and covered the wounds on Tao Tao's body with them. Fortunately, she had a lot of herbs, so it was enough. Chu Liyue decided to seek reimbursement from Elder Wanzheng after she left. After Tao Tao's injury was completely treated, an hour had passed. Chu Liyue helped Aqiong to refine the elixir and adjust her blood. Although it didn't suffer any trauma, it had suffered great mental damage when it saw its child being beaten and almost killed. After dealing with the things here, Tao Tao had fallen asleep. Aqiong looked at it with love and care. Chu Liyue patted Aqiong. Have a good rest today. We'll talk about other things tomorrow. There was no doubt that this was an extremely thrilling night. On the way back, Elder Bo Yin didn't talk much. When they were about to leave, Elder Bo Yin finally stopped him. Wanzheng. Elder Wanzheng turned back. Elder Bo Yin was silent for a moment. He seemed to hesitate. Chu Yu's situation. Did you know it before? Of course, Elder Wanzheng knew what he was asking, so he shook his head. I don't know. He has just broken through to the 8th rank, and he has already caused such a huge commotion. Elder Bo Yin took a deep breath. Find a time to ask him how many lightning tribulations he summoned when he broke through to the 7th rank. Elder Wanzheng also nodded in agreement. At the beginning when Chu Yu came in, he only said that he was a 7th stage warrior. At that time, many people looked down on him. Even they thought that Chu Yu specialized in heavenly medicine and wasn't good at other cultivation, which was why he was like this. But now it seemed that it was not the case. His talent in these few areas is almost on par with each other. Wanzheng, you have picked up a good apprentice. Even Elder Bo Yin couldn't help but envy. It was enough to have such a student. Elder Wanzheng was happy in his heart, and there was a smile at the corner of his eyes. Of course, I have always had a good eye. For so many years in the academy, he had taught many students, but there were only a few who were accepted as disciples. In recent years there was no one. To be honest, other than that girl back then, Chu Yu was the only one that caught my eye. I originally thought that he was only good at celestial physician, but I didn't expect. Elder Wanzheng's face revealed a trace of nostalgia. Now that I think about it, these two kids are really quite similar. Even the fact that their origins were unknown was the same. Elder Bo Yin laughed. It's all in the past, let's not talk about it. If you want to know about his background, find time to ask Rong Xiu, wouldn't you know? Elder Wanzheng chuckled and turned to leave. That's not necessary. If this kid is willing to say, then say it. If not, I will still pamper him. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1277. The night passed quickly. When the morning sun shone into the cave, Chu Liyue opened her eyes. After a night's rest, her body had basically recovered to the best state. She stood up and stretched her muscles and bones. She could clearly feel that her body was much stronger than before. The vigorous force was running in her limbs and bones. She felt extremely comfortable. This was the feeling of becoming stronger. Chu Liyue smiled in a good mood. She really didn't know how she would feel when she returned to the 9th level of warrior. There was a slight sound next to her. Chu Liyue turned her head and saw that Tao Tao had also woken up. At this time, Tao Tao was blinking his eyes and looking at her. Tao Tao was lying on the ground. He was tightly bandaged. He looked like a big patched ball. Chu Liyue blinked at him. Tao Tao seemed to be caught doing something bad in an instant. He closed his eyes guiltily. Chu Liyue almost laughed out. At this time, Qiong also woke up. He rubbed Tao Tao's head helplessly and dotingly. Qiong, Tao Tao, I'll go out. Chu Liyue said. Qiong raised his eyes and looked over. Even Tao Tao opened one of his eyes. It was a pity that Tao Tao's eyes were as big as a lantern. Although he tried his best to open a slit, it was still very obvious. Chu Liyue had to pretend that she didn't see it. She explained to Qiong. I didn't have time to tell you before. I was punished here because I did something wrong. The punishment is 1 month. Since I'm here, it's not appropriate to stay here all the time. I have to go out. What do you think? In fact, Cheong didn't agree very much. There was a trace of worry in his eyes. After the battle yesterday, Chu Luiyue was now in a delicate balance with those evil beasts in the beast park. If she went out now, it was still a little dangerous. Cheong stood up. It seemed that he was going to go with her. Chu Luiyue shook her head. Cheong, I can go by myself. You stay here and take good care of Tao Tao. After the patrol, I'll come back naturally. Seeing that it was still worried, Chu Luiyue waved the Scarlet Heaven sword in his hand and smiled. They couldn't do anything to me yesterday, so they won't do anything to me today. Looking at the Scarlet Heaven sword, Cheong subconsciously took half a step back. Only then did it relax and nod at Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue put away Scarlet Heaven's sword and walked outside. The Beast Park occupied an extremely large area, with dozens of lofty and steep mountain peaks. The forest was lush and dense. When the breeze blew, the pines rustled. It was early in the morning, and the white fog in the middle of the mountain had yet to disperse, surging with the wind. Chu Luiyue took a deep breath. The cool air was refreshing, and it seemed to make him feel much more refreshed. She looked around her surroundings as far as she could. Where is the golden black demon wolf's cave? She asked in her heart. After a while, the three-eyed eagle's voice rang out. Southeast, behind 3 mountains. Chu Luiyue looked in the direction and saw an extremely steep mountain peak. With a tap of her foot, she soared into the air and headed straight there. Why are you going there? The three-eyed eagle couldn't help but ask. Yesterday, before Chu Luiyue went to rest, she specifically asked if it could find the location of the corresponding demon beast through its aura. After it gave an affirmative answer, Chu Luiyue didn't say anything else. In the end, she wanted to go there early in the morning. There's only one golden black demon wolf in this entire beast park, and you killed it yesterday. Why are you going to its cave? Chu Luiyue's thin lips curled up slightly. The golden black demon wolf is a divine beast, and there are many good things in its cave. If I don't go there, won't others benefit from it? Of course, it should be said that other beasts benefit. The three-eyed eagle couldn't refute this reason, so it tactfully shut its mouth. After Chu Luiyue broke through to the 8th level, her speed nearly doubled. This allowed her to reach the mountain peak where the golden black demon wolf's cave was located in 15 minutes. Suspended in midair, she saw the cave halfway up the mountain. Compared to Cheong's cave, this one was about half as small. However, as the golden black demon wolf's strength and level were considered one of the best here, Chu Luiyue didn't need to think to know that there must be many good things hidden inside. However, just as she was about to go over, she suddenly heard the three-eyed eagle's low voice. Wait, there's another demon beast in there. Chu Luiyue narrowed her eyes and smiled. Looks like I'm not the only one who has eyes on this treasure. She crossed her arms and stared at that place with a lazy expression. She murmured with a faint smile. Can you find out what kind of demon it is? The three-eyed eagle paused. The silver-eared piebald beast is also a divine beast. It's cunning but timid. Usually, it likes to do sneaky things. It doesn't have a good reputation among the divine beasts. Its strength is far inferior to the golden black demon wolf's. I think it's very bold. It even dares to take my things. Chu Luiyue said slowly. In the beast park, there was an unwritten rule. If one party was killed by the other, then everything of the party, including the territory, would belong to the other party. Chu Luiyue killed the golden black demon wolf yesterday. Everything in this cave should belong to her. Moreover, she killed it in front of so many demon beasts. The news should have spread here long ago. There wouldn't be any demon beast that didn't know about this. This was also why she didn't rush over immediately after the incident yesterday. Looks like in these few years, this place has been much more chaotic than before. Chu Luiyue tucked her fringe behind her ear and smiled faintly. If it was in the past, everyone would be well behaved. Why would they do such a thing? What do you plan to do? The legendary three-eyed eagle asked. It didn't know why, but from Chu Luiyue's words, it faintly sensed a trace of inexplicable impulse. She seemed to have made up her mind. Chu Luiyue smiled lazily. What else can I do? Naturally, I'll teach them not to break the rules. At this moment a figure walked out of the cave. It was a demon beast that looked like a lion or a tiger. Its pointy ears were silver in color, and its body was covered with crisscrossing flower spots. It seemed to be biting something in its mouth. It stuck its head out and looked around, intending to escape quickly. How many times has it been? A clear voice with a hint of laziness could be heard. The silver-eared spotted beast was shocked and hurriedly looked up. When it saw that the person was Chu Luiyue, it was so shocked that it took a few steps back. Chu Luiyue tilted her head and glanced at the thing in its mouth. It was a piece of dark gold stone about the size of a fist. Under the sunlight, it emitted a faint glow. Dark gold condensed stone. This was a treasure that could only be found in the habitat of the golden black demon wolf. It was incomparably hard and contained an extremely rich energy. It was very precious. The silver-eared spotted beast only hesitated for a moment before it spat out the dark gold condensed stone in its mouth. Chu Luiyue narrowed her eyes and smiled. Don't you think it's too late to regret now? Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1278. Panic flashed across the eyes of the silver-eared piebald beast. Of course, it knew that what it did was taboo. It was understandable that the other party would be angry. But it had waited here for a whole night and did not see Chu Luiyue. It thought that she did not know the rules of the beast park and wanted to take advantage of the situation. Who knew that she would come just as it started to move? It let out a low whimper and shook off some small pieces from its body. After it cleaned up its body, it retreated and bowed its head. It was begging for mercy. Unfortunately, this trick was useless against Chu Luiyue. If you have such awareness, why didn't you do it earlier? Chu Luiyue's words made the silver-eared piebald beast even more nervous. It was also present when the golden black demonic wolf was killed yesterday. It had clearly seen the scene at that time. It was not as powerful as the golden black demonic wolf. If the other party was determined to kill it, wouldn't it be dead meat? The silver-eared piebald beast took another step back with its tail between its legs. It looked panicked and scared. Only that pair of eyes were rolling around, as if they were planning something. Swoosh. At this moment, Chu Luiyue suddenly moved. She was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, she was in front of the silver-eared piebald beast. After all, the silver-eared piebald beast was a mythical beast. It had sharp reflexes. It turned around and wanted to escape immediately. If you don't want to be stabbed in the heart, stay there obediently. Chu Luiyue shouted, causing the silver-eared piebald beast to stop abruptly. It hurriedly glanced and saw Chu Luiyue holding the red cloud sword in her hand. It looked like she was going to attack at any time. Buzz! The sound of the sword rang. The silver-eared piebald beast was frightened. In the end, it did not run away and lay on the ground obediently. Chu Luiyue landed and walked toward it. Thud! Thud! The rhythmic footsteps sounded like they were stepping on the beast's heart. The sharp tip of the sword glinted coldly. Clang! Chu Luiyue raised her hand and pointed the sword at the silver-eared piebald beast. The distance was less than an inch. As long as he moved forward a little more, she could easily assassinate him. Without rules, nothing can be accomplished. You have been in the beast park for so long. Do you need me to tell you this? Chu Luiyue spoke casually, but the silver-eared spotted beast was almost scared out of its wits. It looked at Chu Luiyue pleadingly. Chu Luiyue looked at it calmly and attacked without hesitation. Chi! The two ears of the white-eared spotted beast were cut off by her. Woo! The sudden pain caused the silver-eared piebald beast to let out a mournful cry. Their ears were very important to them. If they were cut off, their hearing would be greatly affected, and their battle prowess would be greatly reduced. To them, having their ears cut off was an extremely severe punishment. It could even be said to be a humiliation. But at this moment, how could the silver-eared piebald beast, who had just managed to survive, have the mood to care about these things? Since this is your first offense, I'll give you a small punishment this time. If there is a next time. Chu Luiyue glanced at it indifferently. The silver-eared piebald beast did not care about its bleeding ears, and hurriedly shook its head. There won't be a next time. There won't be a next time. Chu Luiyue then kept her sword. Get lost. With a command, the silver-eared piebald beast hurriedly ran away and disappeared completely in a short while. You actually didn't kill it. The legendary three-eyed eagle's voice carried a trace of surprise. Chu Luiyue sheathed her sword. It's not worth me using Red Cloud Sword. Using it once would consume a lot of energy. A silver-eared piebald beast was not worth it. From the beginning, she only wanted to use Red Cloud Sword for show. Moreover, if it returns alive, the news will spread. Chu Luiyue touched her chin. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Why not? She had already killed 2 of them. It was basically enough. As for the rest, as long as she put in more effort, it would be enough to deter them. Then, Chu Luiyue walked over and kept the black gold condensed stone on the ground. She then walked into the cave. The cave was average in width, but extremely narrow. After Chu Luiyue walked for a long distance, she finally saw the end. A large piece of black gold condensed stone was quietly entrenched in the deepest part of the cave. Chu Luiyue's eyes lit up. This was more than she had imagined. She quickly walked over and saw that some of the edges had been bitten off. Fortunately, it did not affect the whole thing much. This black gold condensed stone is at least 100 years old. The power it contains is extremely rich. It's suitable for that steelback beast's cub. The legendary three-eyed eagle said. Chu Luiyue nodded. Actually, she thought so too. With such a large piece, it should be enough for it to recover its strength as soon as possible. If it went well, it might even break through and become a divine beast in advance. Without another word, Chu Luiyue kept the black gold condensed stone. Then, she searched around and found some things one after another. Most of them were things that the black gold demonic wolf had obtained when it was alive. There were some divine beast bones, some medicinal herbs, and some random jade stones. Chu Luiyue ransacked most of the place before she finally finished and turned to leave. Walking out of the cave, Chu Luiyue paused for a moment, then flew in another direction. After a while, the legendary three-eyed eagle realized that she did not seem to be going back. Where are you going? The legendary three-eyed eagle already had a guess in its mind. Chu Luiyue raised an eyebrow. Don't forget, I killed a golden cloud panther yesterday. Of course, she was going to take the things over there as well. As expected, the legendary three-eyed eagle immediately understood. Then it asked, you know where the golden cloud panther's nest is? She did not seem to have asked it just now. Chu Luiyue's red lips curled up slightly. Of course, she had been there more than once. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1279. The legendary three-eyed eagle quickly realized that things were more complicated than it had imagined. Because it realized that Chu Luiyue seemed to be very familiar with the terrain here, as if she had been here many times before. She was familiar with the path, and accurately headed towards the nest of the golden cloud leopard. The closer she got, the stronger the aura of the golden cloud leopard. This made the legendary three-eyed eagle believe what she said just now. She really knew the location. After the incident between Chu Luiyue and the adult steel spine beast, the legendary three-eyed eagle had roughly guessed that Chu Luiyue had indeed been here before. But wasn't she too familiar with this place? The terrain between the mountains was extremely complicated, and one could get lost if they were not careful. Most importantly, most of these mountains have been occupied by various mythical beasts, becoming their base. Chu Luiyue sometimes had to avoid offending the other party, so she had to choose to pass through from other positions. But this seemed to be very easy for her. She clearly knew the location of every mountain and every river here. The legendary three-eyed eagle even suspected that she even knew what the mythical beasts on every mountain here were. After about an hour, Chu Luiyue finally arrived in front of a mountain. This was a very steep mountain, and the top seemed to have been shaved off by something. It was flat and flat, revealing the grayish-white rocks. There were not many trees on it, and most of them were rocks. This was the favorite terrain of the golden cloud leopard. They liked to run back and forth on such steep cliffs. And because of this, they had trained their amazing climbing ability and explosive power. Of course, there was no point in talking about this now. probably because the news of the silver ear-spotted beast's injury had already spread. So when Chu Luiyue came this time, there were no mythical beasts around who wanted to take advantage of the situation. After sweeping the cliff clean, Chu Luiyue clapped her hands in high spirits and looked around. "Where should I start?" the legendary three-eyed eagle asked curiously. "What? Oh, nothing. I just feel that there are still more than 20 days here. If I just cultivate in the cave, it will be really boring, so I want to find a few mythical beasts to spar with." Chu Luiyue laughed. "Of course, the kind that doesn't use the scarlet cloud sword." She touched her chin, pondered for a moment and said thoughtfully, "I remember that among the mythical beasts that were about to besiege me yesterday, there were a few that lived nearby. Oh, let's start with Emotianke." Emotianke was a 9th-ranked demonic beast, but it had a fierce temperament and was extremely belligerent. In addition, it had the bloodline of the Vermilion Bird clan in its body, so its status was not low. In the beast park where there were many godly beasts, it had a place for itself. When Chu Luiyue was on the mountain, she was on the lookout at the top of the mountain. In the blink of an eye, they gathered into a dark mass and faced Chu Luiyue from afar, as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Calm. "I won't use my sword today. You can send any one of you to fight with me. Let's stop when it's appropriate and not endanger each other's lives. How about it?" Seeing that Chu Luiyue was so friendly, the mythical beasts chattered for a while. Finally, one of them flew out. The mythical beasts were not big. They were only the size of a palm. However, if anyone underestimated them, they would pay a high price. Chu Luiyue's mind moved. She instantly mobilized her force and surrounded her body. Swoosh! That mythical beast attacked first. "Good!" hollered Chu Luiyue, and her body flew out like an arrow. A human and a mythical beast fought in close quarters. "This kid is quite quiet today." Elder Yu, who was patrolling the edge of the mythical beast's garden, muttered to himself. "Seems like he has learned his lesson. No matter how stubborn he was, he should have calmed down after yesterday's thrilling battle. Today these mythical beasts seem to have quietened down. Even their daily roars could not be heard. They should be afraid of Chu Yu's sword." Elder Yu did not take this to heart. In fact, they had been letting the mythical beasts roam freely in the mythical beast's garden. These mythical beasts were all intelligent. Without the intervention of others, they would form a balance on their own. All parties were fighting for supremacy and restricting each other. Now there was only one more person, Chu Yu. Anyway, as long as he stayed here, these mythical beasts would not look for his Mafa mythical beasts. When the 1-month time limit was up, Chu Yu would be able to leave safely. Elder Yu rubbed his forehead as he thought about this. From yesterday until now, his mind had been in a state of high tension. It was only now that he was finally willing to relax a little. A sense of exhaustion and sleepiness instantly surged up. It was time to take a rest. Elder Yu checked the Xian formation in the area he was in charge of again. Then, he went back to sleep. Time passed by slowly. An hour later, Chu Luiyue walked out of Emotiang's mountain. Her clothes were torn in a few places and looked a little messy. But fortunately, she was not injured. She took a deep breath and looked back. Touching her universe ring, she revealed a satisfied smile. "I didn't expect Emotianke to be so good at collecting treasures." In the distance, the few Emotianke that finally managed to get Chu Luiyue to leave finally heaved a sigh of relief. She finally left. They thought that she was easy to bully, but who knew that she was a plague? Overbearing and unreasonable. He even almost emptied their homes. "See you later." Chu Luiyue waved at them happily. The few Emo heavenly sparrows scattered with a whoosh. "See you." "See what?" "Have a good trip home." One of the Emotianke fell behind and flew away limping. From afar, half of the feathers on its wing were gone. It was the one that had sparred with Chu Luiyue just now. Chu Luiyue shrugged regretfully. "You're still as boring as before." The legendary three-eyed eagle was speechless. "You beat him up like that and stole his things. In the end, you still have the nerve to say that this is fun?" Chu Luiyue kicked away a rock beside her feet and walked forward. "Let's call it a day." The legendary three-eyed eagle's heart skipped a beat. Even if it was indifferent to other things, it was still a little shocked at this time. Call it a day. Do you plan to come again tomorrow? Nope. Chu Luiyue shook her head. The legendary three-eyed eagle heaved a sigh of relief, but then it heard Chu Luiyue say again. I've taken everything here, and I've taken revenge for the siege that day. There's no point in coming again. We'll change places tomorrow. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1280. The legendary three-eyed eagle was speechless. There were so many beasts that attacked you yesterday. Are you going to challenge every single one of them? Of course not. Chu Luiyue explained patiently as she walked forward. Actually, I was in the wrong in the first place. I shouldn't have chosen to break through here at this time. Furthermore, I broke through to the 8th level. This is a huge temptation to the beasts in the Beast Park. It's normal for them to go there. However, during the battle yesterday, I gave them an ultimatum. I also gave them time to regret and retreat. It's a pity that not all beasts are so tactful. Chu Luiyue thought for a while and counted with her fingers. Yesterday, other than the golden black demonic wolf that took the initiative to step forward, there are a total of 13 godly beasts and 7 ninth-grade beasts that stayed at their original positions. If they didn't retreat, it would be considered a challenge. Let me think, there are a total of 20 of them. Then I'll take one a day. I should be able to understand all of them before I leave. The legendary three-eyed eagle was really shocked. It didn't expect Chu Luiyue to be able to remember all these when she was in such a dangerous situation. Of course, with her photographic memory, this book wasn't difficult. It was just a matter of looking at it a little longer. But, do you really intend to challenge all of them? The legendary three-eyed eagle was in disbelief. You were able to win today, because Motianke is only a 9th-grade beast with limited combat power. However, if you really face those godly beasts and don't use Red Cloud Sword, I'm afraid you won't have much of a chance of winning. Chu Luiyue wasn't angry because the legendary three-eyed eagle didn't have a good impression of her. On the contrary, she was very happy, because she knew that the legendary three-eyed eagle was really thinking for her. I didn't say that I must win. Chu Luiyue's expression became more serious. These godly beasts are of different species, but they are all very powerful and have their own merits. If I can have a good fight with them, I will definitely benefit greatly. One had to know that the beasts in the Beast Park were all wild and bloodthirsty beasts. They were different from the beasts that had formed contracts with humans. How could Chu Luiyue not know that such a battle would be more bloody and cruel? However, this was the only way to increase her combat power faster and more directly. Ever since she entered this place, Debeo hadn't come. Without the daily abuse, she still felt empty in her heart. Chu Luiyue sighed. She had been led astray by Debeo. I see. The legendary three-eyed eagle's words. It had to be said that this was indeed a bold and crazy move. But if she could really persevere, Chu Luiyue's abilities would definitely increase greatly. Moreover, she had just broken through to the 8th rank, and it was time for her to polish herself. Actually, you don't have to worry. If I really can't win, I can still ask for help. Elder Yu and the others reacted very quickly. But for now, let's keep a low profile. Otherwise, you'll be criticized again. Chu Luiyue was very careful about this. Even when she sparred with Motianke, she deliberately chose a more remote place and ended the battle quickly before it caused a commotion. Aren't you afraid that these beasts will leak the news? A mysterious smile appeared on Chu Luiyue's face. Which beast do you think is willing to take the initiative to tell others that they have lost? Especially these beasts in the Beast Park. Anyone with a bit of temper and backbone wouldn't do such a thing. Therefore, no matter what the result was, they could only accept it silently. The legendary three-eyed eagle. You planned this long ago? She beat them up and snatched their things. In the end, she didn't even give them a chance to complain. She was simply beating them to death. Chu Luiyue said very modestly, not at all. No, I didn't know that I would be sent here, did I? In the end, I just borrowed some experience from my predecessors. There's nothing to praise. The legendary three-eyed eagle? When did it praise her? Suddenly, a trace of doubt flashed through its mind. There shouldn't be many people who can do such a thing. Your experience. Who exactly did you borrow from? Chu Luiyue waved her hand coolly. Sigh, I did it myself. Why did she say that she had already gained experience in doing this? The legendary three-eyed eagle had been following her all this time, and basically understood some of her secrets. Therefore, Chu Luiyue didn't deliberately hide this matter. But I really didn't do it on purpose in the past. At that time, a few divine beasts bullied Ah Cheong and dragged me into it. They chased after me and beat me up. What could I do? Chu Luiyue sighed. Thinking of the years back then, she couldn't help but feel sad. I had no choice but to deal with them. The legendary three-eyed eagle. Originally, I came here with the intention of staying well. Who knew that such a thing would happen? They had already bullied me. If I didn't resist, wouldn't it be too aggrieved? Chu Luiyue said seriously. But it's not good to offend too many, so I only chose those who didn't leave at that time. In this way, even if she was found out one day, she could justifiably defend herself. The legendary three-eyed eagle silently mourned for the many evil beasts in the beast park for 3 seconds in its heart. It was better to offend the natural enemy than to offend Chu Luiyue. After returning, Chu Luiyue saw Ah Cheong standing at the entrance of the cave waiting for her, before she walked halfway up the mountain. Seeing her smiling face, it seemed that everything went well. Ah Cheong's heart settled down. Chu Luiyue walked over. How's Tao Tao's recovery? As soon as Chu Luiyue finished speaking, she heard the footsteps coming from inside. A big head carefully and curiously popped out. Chu Luiyue couldn't help laughing. It seems that it's not bad. The recovery ability of the steel spine beast was definitely one of the best even among the divine beasts. Tao Tao's blood is very strong. Maybe he will be more powerful than you in the future. Chu Luiyue said seriously. There was a smile in Ah Cheong's eyes. Praising children often made them happy and proud more easily than praising their parents. Hearing that he was praised, Tao Tao was shy, which was rare. He retracted his head. Chu Luiyue walked inside. I brought back some gadgets today. Some are for you, Ah Cheong, and some are for Tao Tao. As she said, she entered the cave. Under the gaze of the mother and the son, she took out today's trophies. Bang! The huge black gold condensed stone fell to the ground, making a muffled sound. Chu Luiyue patted it. Tao Tao, you can eat this when you get better in a few days. Tao Tao didn't know what it was, but he could keenly perceive the amazing energy contained in it. He immediately became excited and walked around it for several laps. Ah Cheong was surprised at first, and then she looked at Chu Luiyue gratefully. Chu Luiyue blinked her eyes. Don't worry. Before I leave, I will definitely return you a healthy and strong Tao Tao. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Iowa. Chapter 1281. In the days that followed, Chu Luiyue lived a very regular life. Every day during the day, she would find a magical beast to spar with. If she won, she would eat and take the other party's belongings. If she lost, she would fight again and again. If she couldn't win, she would run. Thanks to the fact that she had broken through to the 8th rank, her speed was quite fast when she was escaping. Occasionally, when she was forced to retreat, she would teleport. The other party chased after her and ran back. But with Ah Cheong holding the fort, they could only return resentfully. All in all, Chu Luiyue had a very smooth time, and after a series of tough battles, her combat strength was soaring rapidly. And all of this, Elder Yu and the others did not notice. In the end, it was safe and sound. Immortal Water Mausoleum. Jiang Jiwen rushed all the way back, and finally arrived at the fastest speed. Outside the Jiang residence, the guards in charge of guarding saw Jiang Jiwen return from afar, and were all shocked. They looked at each other, and hurriedly came up to greet her. Eldest young miss, why didn't you inform us in advance that you were coming back? We could have gone to pick you up. Jiang Jiwen did not stop, and went straight into the residence. Where's father? Seeing her in a hurry and travel-worn, it seemed like she had something urgent to deal with. The guards did not dare to delay and hurriedly said, The patriarch is in the residence. Hearing this, Jiang Jiwen felt a little relieved and rushed over at an even faster speed. Eldest young miss is back. One of the guards hurriedly jogged to catch up, while the other ran even faster and went to the front to report. Soon, the news spread throughout the Jiang residence. Jiang Jiwan's status was noble. When they heard that she had returned, many people in the residence hurriedly came out to welcome her. In the past, Jiang Jiwan would still put on an act, but today, she was not in the mood. She did not even spare these people a glance, and went straight to Jiang Hetian's courtyard. She blew past like a gust of wind, leaving everyone confused. What happened to eldest young miss? Why is her face so ugly? I've never seen young mistress like this before. It's as if her entire body is covered in ice. In the past, young mistress would greet us cheerfully whenever she saw us. Today, I don't think she did it on purpose. Look at how anxious she is. Perhaps she really has something urgent. Forget it. This isn't something we can discuss. Let's disperse. Jiang Ziyuan didn't pay attention to these words and walked straight ahead. As soon as he reached the gate of the courtyard, Jiang Hetian, who had heard the news, came out. His face, which had been full of joy and happiness, instantly froze when he saw Jiang Jiwan's cold and anxious expression. Father! Seeing Jiang Hetian, Jiang Jiwan finally felt relieved and could not help calling out to him. Jiang Hetian's heart sank, and he hurried forward. Ziyuan, what happened to you? For so many years, Jiang Jiwan had always been decent and generous in his eyes. He was proud of her. He had never seen her so haggard and anxious. Although her clothes were luxurious and her hair was exquisite, it still could not hide the fatigue on her face. Vaguely, there was even a hint of embarrassment. Father! Jiang Jiwan was just about to speak when she remembered that there were still some people around. So she hesitated. Jiang Hetian understood tacitly. If there's anything, let's go inside. You can tell father slowly. With that, the two of them walked back into the house, leaving the confused crowd outside. Ziyuan, what's wrong? As soon as they entered the house, Jiang Hetian could not help but ask worriedly. Jiang Jiwan took a deep breath and asked, Father, why didn't you reply to my letter? Reply? What letter? Jiang Hetian asked in surprise. Seeing him like this, Jiang Jiwan immediately understood something. You didn't receive my letter? I specifically placed it in the 1,000-device bird's body and sent it back. Jiang Hetian shook his head. I've been in the Immortal Water Mausoleum all this time, but I really didn't receive any news from you. Jiang Jiwan gritted her teeth. As expected. Father, I wrote you a letter before, but it must have been intercepted. That's why you didn't receive it. No wonder. No wonder she waited for so long, but there was no reply from father. So there was a problem. What's the matter that made you so anxious? Also, there shouldn't be many people who would dare to intercept your letter. Who could it be? Jiang Jiwan shook her head. I don't know either. Although it was a long journey from the academy to the Immortal Water Mausoleum, there had never been an accident when she sent letters before. This time, someone must have done it on purpose. It was just that they would not be able to find out in such a short time. We can investigate this matter later. I came back this time because I have something I need your help with. Jiang Ziyuan paused for a moment. After sorting out her thoughts, she briefly recounted what had happened in the academy recently. After hearing this, Jiang Hetian frowned. So, you suspect that there's something wrong with that Chuyu's identity? Yes. Rongxiu's attitude toward him is really unusual, which makes people suspicious. Jiang Jiwan bit her lip. He also has a red-tailed phoenix like Sheng Guanyu. This is too much of a coincidence. Jiang Hetian asked. You're guessing that Chuyu is from Sheng Guanyu? Jiang Jiwan nodded hesitantly. Jiang Hetian fell silent. He paced back and forth in the room with his hands behind his back. After a long while he said, Your suspicion is not impossible, but there's no news from the Yuntian Tower that the princess consort has left. With Sheng Guanyu's current status, it was impossible for her to go anywhere quietly. Ever since she was chosen as the princess consort, she had been staying in the Yuntian Tower. Why would she appear in Lingxiao College, which was thousands of miles away? Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1282. Who knows if Shang Guanyu is still in the Yuntian Tower? Jiang Jiwan's mind was exceptionally clear at this moment. She gritted her teeth and could not hide her jealousy. Rong Xiu dotes on her so much that he even offended the elders for her. What's the big deal if he secretly arranged for her to leave? In any case, other than himself, only his trusted aides could go up to his bedroom. Even if something really happened, how would outsiders know? The more Jiang Jiwan thought about it, the more she felt that her suspicions were likely to be true. The reason I'm writing this letter to you is to ask you to investigate the situation in Yuntianke. But this letter was blocked. It's obvious that someone is secretly stopping me from investigating Chu Yu's matter. Jiang Jiwan's words made Jiang Hetian waver. Your guess is not without reason, but now, Yuntianke is heavily guarded. It's as difficult as ascending to the heavens to get any information, let alone the most important ones. Ziyuan, you've really made things difficult for your father this time. Jiang Jiwan was stunned. How could this be? Weren't we there before? Jiang Hetian immediately looked at her warily. Jiang Jiwan immediately fell silent. After the princess was chosen, the structure of the Yuntian Tower changed greatly. Some of them are almost empty. Rong Xiu did nothing on the surface and went to Lingxiao College leisurely. But in fact, he had already made a plan in secret. His actions were steady, accurate, and ruthless. They did not even have time to fight back. Right now, those people were already in a very difficult situation. So why would they help them? Ever since Jiang Jiwan lost her position as the princess, their attitude toward the immortal water tomb had deteriorated day by day. Jiang Jiwan's heart slowly sank. Is there no other way? Sigh. Jiang Hetian shook his head and sighed. If the patriarch could come out now, he might say a few words for us. But now, no one knew when the patriarch would come out. But with the current situation, how could they afford to wait? Both father and daughter fell into silence. There was dead silence in the room. After a while, Jiang Jiwan suddenly said, Then let's check Shang Guanyu. Jiang Hetian was stunned. What? Jiang Jiwan narrowed her eyes and said word by word. Rong Xiu admitted that Shang Guanyu was the woman he was engaged to when he was still in Empire Yaochun. If we want to find out the background of this Shang Guanyu, we can just send someone there and investigate. Who knows, maybe that Chu Yu is also from that side, and we can find some problems together. The more Jiang Jiwan thought about it, the more feasible it seemed. Father, only by knowing yourself and your enemy can you win 100 battles. Jiang Hetian was still a little hesitant. It's not impossible, but if Rong Xiu knows that we're secretly investigating the identity of the princess consort, so what if he knows? Jiang Jiwan sneered. The princess consort of the Yuntian Tower should be of noble birth and upright. If she can't even withstand such a small investigation, it only proves that there's something wrong with her identity, and she's not worthy of being the princess consort. Jiang Hetian sighed inwardly. His daughter was good at everything, but she was particularly impulsive and irrational when it came to matters related to Rong Xiu. Shang Guanyu was no longer a candidate for the princess consort, but a real princess consort of the Yuntian Tower. Some things could no longer be done according to the previous plan. However, she didn't seem to have realized this problem. Father. Jiang Jiwan couldn't help but frown when her father didn't respond for a long time. Jiang Hetian's heart ached when he saw her like this, but he could only nod. Okay, I'll send someone to investigate later. Jiang Jiwan was satisfied. Thank you, father. I know that you're the best to me. Jiang Hetian laughed and patted her on the head. Well, you can finally rest assured now, right? Look at your travel-worn face. You must have rushed back without stopping, right? Was the journey tiring? Take a hot bath and have a good rest later. Jiang Jiwan was touched and nodded vigorously. However, Jiang Hetian's next sentence froze her smile on her face. By the way, how long did you ask Elder Danqing for this time? After hesitating for a while, Jiang Jiwan said vaguely. He didn't say the specific time. I wanted to come back, so I told Master that I would go back after dealing with some personal matters. Master also agreed. Ah, he didn't say the time. Jiang Hetian was very surprised. Then don't fall behind on your homework at the academy. Jiang Jiwan had already asked for leave once because of the concubine selection at the Yuntian Tower. It hadn't been long before she asked for leave again. This time, she didn't even have a fixed time. She didn't know if Elder Danqing would think too much about it. Besides, it wouldn't be good if word got out. Strength is everything. No matter what, you can only get everything you want if you're strong enough. Father, you're worrying too much. Jiang Jiwan forced a smile. When have I ever lagged behind others in this aspect? I'll go back after I adjust at home. Jiang Hetian nodded, slightly relieved. You've always been the most sensible. I won't say anything else. You know what you're doing. Jiang Jiwan could only bite the bullet and agree. The father and daughter chatted for a while more before they went their separate ways. Jiang Jiwan went back to rest, while Jiang Hetian began to send people out to investigate the Shengguanyu incident. The Jiang residence was still peaceful, as if nothing had changed. In the Lingxiao College, 1 month passed in a hurry. In a twinkling of an eye, it was the last day when Chu Luiyue was kept in the Beast Park. Early in the morning, Chu Luiyue got up. She swallowed the force and adjusted her breath. After letting the force run for a big circle in her body, she opened her eyes again and exhaled a long breath of foul air. She felt refreshed. She had to admit that she had a very comfortable time in the Beast Park in the past month. After all, not everyone could have the opportunity to fight with so many powerful monsters. At this moment, a familiar voice came from outside. Chuyu, you can go out today. It was Elder Yu who called her outside. A Qiong and Tao Tao both looked over. Chu Luiyue stood up and tidied up her clothes. Then she smiled at them. I'm leaving today. There was a trace of reluctance in Ah Qiong's eyes. Tao Tao hesitated for a long time. Then he stood up and walked to the door of the cave. He sat down with resistance all over his body. Chu Luiyue didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Tao Tao, you don't want me to leave, do you? Tao Tao turned his head and refused to speak. He was so stubborn. Chu Luiyue felt warm in her heart. In fact, after getting along with each other during this period, she and Tao Tao had been much closer. She was also very reluctant to leave Tao Tao. Don't worry. I'll still be in the school later. I'll come to see you when I have the chance. Chuyu. Elder Yu saw that she hadn't come out yet, so he urged her. Chu Luiyue walked over and patted Ah Qiong and Tao Tao. Tao Tao made way for her obediently. He looked down at Chu Luiyue with grievance. Patter. A teardrop the size of a fist fell and landed on Chu Luiyue's hand. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Iowa. Chapter 1283. The sad and reluctant atmosphere was broken in an instant. Chu Luiyue's mouth twitched. She looked up at Tao Tao and said seriously, Tao Tao, you have swallowed such a big piece of black gold condensed stone. You will be a big boy in the future. Don't cry so easily, okay? Tao Tao nodded hard, and several big drops of tears were thrown out. Chu Luiyue was hit again without warning. She wiped her face. Then, I'll go first. Elder Yu waited for a while. When he was about to go in to find her, Chu Luiyue finally came out from inside. He looked at Chu Luiyue's wet face in surprise. Chuyu, what's wrong with you? Chu Luiyue coughed. Nothing. I just washed my face. Why did you come so early? You even came to pick me up specially. Elder Yu didn't take it seriously and said with a smile. After all, it's the last day. Your master must be anxious. I promised him that I would take good care of you. Now of course, I'm responsible for sending you out safely. He raised his chin. Let's go. Chu Luiyue nodded. When they were just about to leave, there was a reluctant cry behind them. Chu Luiyue looked back. It was Ah Qiong and Tao Tao who stood at the entrance of the cave to say goodbye to her. She waved her hand. It seems that they are still reluctant to leave you. A hint of curiosity surfaced on Elder Yu's face. The steelback beast is indifferent and difficult to get close to. I didn't expect that they were very close to you. In fact, he wanted to ask about this for a long time, but he didn't have a chance before. Until now, he didn't know how Chuyu established such a deep friendship with the mother and son of the steelback beast. Especially the adult steelback beast. In order to protect Chuyu, it could even give up its own child. It was really shocking. Chu Luiyue smiled. Maybe it's fate? Seeing that Chu Luyue didn't want to talk more, Elder Yu understood and didn't continue to ask. In any case, he already understood that this Chu Yu was indeed different from ordinary people. There were many things that were impossible in the eyes of others, but he easily accomplished them. He had no choice but to be convinced. Some people were born with good luck. Your aura seems to be much stronger than before. Elder Yu originally wanted to check on Chu Luyue's current strength, but he remembered that she had a divine artifact that concealed her aura, so he couldn't detect it. But vaguely there were still some obvious changes. Chu Luyue raised his eyebrows. The energy of heaven and earth is abundant here, and it's quiet and peaceful. It's the most suitable place for cultivation. I've been here for a month, so it's normal for me to improve a little, right? Quiet? Peaceful? Elder Yu's expression became strange. Did Chu Yu have some misunderstanding about the Beast Park? Not to mention anything else, just based on the situation on the night, when he was about to break through to the 8th rank, it definitely had nothing to do with these 2 words. Don't you think so? The Beast Park has become much quieter recently. Chu Luyue asked. Elder Yu thought for a while and hesitated. It seems a little. In the past, when he was patrolling, he would occasionally hear the roars and cries of some demonic beasts, but it did seem to be much lesser recently. It's probably because the incident that night was too big, Elder Yu said with uncertainty. Chu Luyue didn't expose him, but nodded in agreement. Elder Yu's words make sense. In that case, I'm still quite lucky. As they spoke, the 2 of them had already arrived in front of the Xian formation. Through the translucent Xian formation, Chu Luyue already saw 2 familiar figures. Elder Yu raised his hand, and a crack appeared in the middle of the Xian formation. Disciple, Elder Wanzheng couldn't hide his excitement as he shouted, "Come out quickly! Let Master take a good look." Chu Luyue's heart warmed as he stepped out. Elder Wanzheng took 2 steps forward and looked at her carefully. After confirming that she was really fine, he finally heaved a sigh of relief. Chu Luyue smiled and comforted him. "Master, don't worry, I'm doing very well. You've been suffering in there, how good can you be?" Seeing her smiling face, Elder Wanzheng's heart ached even more. "Don't worry. From today onwards, we won't come to this place anymore." A rare look of hesitation flashed across Chu Luyue's face. Master, actually this place is really quite good." She was living quite happily, and had even picked up quite a few good things. Seeing her like this, Elder Wanzheng only thought that she didn't want to refute Bo Yan, so he didn't say much, and only patted her arm. Good disciple. To be able to stay safely in the Beast Park for a month, and even make a big breakthrough. Who wouldn't be envious of him? Wanzheng, for having such a good disciple? Chu Luyue saw that he had already confirmed many things, and it wasn't easy to explain, so she could only let him be. "You've done well this time." Elder Bo Yan stood at the side, and after sizing up Chu Luyue, he nodded his head approvingly. "You've become much more mature and sensible. It seems that it was right to send Chu Yu here this time. Remember this lesson, and don't do it again in the future." Chu Luyue replied seriously. "Thank you for your teachings, Elder Bo Yan. I've indeed benefited a lot this time. Wasn't it refreshing to fight with so many 9th grade magical beasts, and even divine beasts one by one? Sigh, what a pity. I don't know when I'll have such an opportunity again." Elder Bo Yan's admiration for Chu Luyue increased by a few notches. Good. It's great that you can think this way." As he spoke, he sighed. If only Jun Jiuqing could think the same way as you. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1284. Chu Luyue suddenly looked up. Sensing her reaction, Elder Wanzheng asked curiously, "Disciple, what's wrong?" Chu Luyue came back to her senses and smiled. "Nothing, I'm just curious. The person that Elder Bo Yan mentioned, could it be? Has he received the same punishment as me?" Elder Bo Yan shook his head. "That's not it. It's just that he has also done something wrong, so he received the corresponding punishment. But from the beginning to the end, his attitude has been very stubborn, unlike you. Not only was he stubborn, he simply wouldn't change. In this aspect, He was exactly the same as his master. Perhaps it was because he had long seen through this trait of Jun Jiuqing's that he had always been so protective of him. Forget it. It's all in the past. Let's not talk about it. Elder Bo Yin directly ended the topic. Chu Liuyue's lips moved slightly, but in the end, she didn't say anything. Elder Bo Yin and Elder Bo Yin personally sent Chu Liyue back to Mount Jiuheng. After a lot of things had happened during this period of time, they had already habitually placed Chu Liyue and Rong Xiu together. Therefore, they naturally sent her back here. After Elder Bo Yin said a few more words, he left, giving the master and disciple some space to talk in private. The moment his figure disappeared, Elder Wanzheng looked at Chu Liyue. Disciple, do you know Jun Jiuqing? Chu Liyue smiled. I don't know him. Why did master suddenly ask about this? Elder Wanzheng stared at her and shook his head. You don't have to lie to master. When you mentioned him, your expression was obviously a little strange. You must know him, or at least have heard of him, right? The older the ginger, the spicier it was. Chu Liyue sighed in her heart. It was also because Elder Bo Yin mentioned it too suddenly that she was too shocked and couldn't control her expression. She was silent for a moment. I've heard of him. Elder Wanzheng asked again. Did Rong Xiu tell you? Chu Liyue's eyes flashed and nodded. Sigh. I knew it. Elder Wanzheng suddenly let out a long sigh, as if he had already expected this to happen. He has a deep grudge with Jun Jiuqing. You're so close to Rong Xiu, so it's normal that you've heard of his name. Chu Liyue's brows furrowed slightly. At first she thought that it was Rong Xiu, because she had pushed the blame on Rong. But now it seemed it. She didn't say anything. In Elder Wanzheng's eyes, it was a silent agreement. Actually, Jun Jiuqing was a good seedling, but unfortunately, he has a gloomy mind and an extreme temper. When he encounters some things, his reaction will often lead things to develop in an uncontrollable direction. But this kind of evaluation was only known among the elders. It wasn't appropriate to say it to a student. But you don't have to care too much about that. Just do your own thing. Chu Liyue couldn't help but ask. What's the conflict between Senior Rong Xiu and Jun Jiuqing? She had known that the two of them didn't get along. But from what Elder Wanzheng said, it seemed to be quite serious. Elder Wanzheng knocked on her forehead. You shouldn't be concerned about these things. No matter what happened between them, you just have to adjust your attitude and cultivate well. Chu Liyue rubbed her head and answered obediently. Oh, okay, you can go back first. Have a good rest today. Come to my place tomorrow. Since you've made a breakthrough, I want to see how strong you are now. Chu Liyue nodded and said, By the way, master, I've almost used up all the herbs I have. I want to go to the Medicine Wind Valley to get some. What do you think? Elder Wanzheng waved his hand. Just go and get it. It's all on my account. The smile on Chu Liyue's face became even more sincere. After sending Elder Wanzheng away, she turned and entered Jiuheng Mountain. This barrier was specially set up by Rong Xiu. Only the two of them could open it. Of course, Dugomabao was an exception. After returning to the mountain, Chu Liyue went straight to her residence. But after looking around, she found that Rong Xiu didn't seem to be here. Then she searched inside and outside the house, and even many places on the mountain, but still couldn't find Rong Xiu. Looking at the empty room, Chu Liyue was a little dazed. She subconsciously thought that Rong Xiu was here, so she didn't ask much when she was with Elder Bo Yin and the others. Could it be? Was he punished for what happened before? But even I'm back. Why is Rong Xiu still nowhere to be seen? There's no need to look. He still has half a month before he's back. A cold and cute voice rang out. Chu Liyue was delighted. Debao. She followed the direction of the voice and took a few steps inside. She realized that Dugomabao was indeed in the cubicle. Why are you here? She asked in surprise and astonishment. Dugomabao glanced at her indifferently, as if he was speechless that she would ask such a question. Chu Liyue coughed embarrassedly. Well, I mean it's daytime now. I didn't expect you to be here. According to Dugomabao's habits, he usually appeared in the evening or at night. Dugomabao did not respond to Chu Liyue's words. Obviously, he felt that Chu Liyue's words were meaningless. Chu Luiyue, who was despised, did not mind, and continued to walk over happily. In Dugumabao's place, it was normal to be despised. If she was not despised, it meant that she was done for. Over time, Chu Luiyue got used to it. Every time she bumped into that cold and disdainful expression on his face, she only wanted to do one thing: to rub his face hard. Of course, she had the intention but no guts. In the past, she still dared to be a little presumptuous, but ever since she started cultivating with Dugumabao, Chu Luiyue had restrained herself a lot. The feeling of being ruthlessly crushed on the chessboard was too painful. This was enough for her to resist the urge to pinch his little face, and not even a trace of it remained. Where did he go? Why did he take so long? Chu Luiyue looked at him curiously. This matter should be confidential. How do you know so much about it? He's not in the academy. Dugumabao was a man of few words. He only gave half an answer, and turned a deaf ear to Chu Luiyue's other questions. You broke through to level 8? Hearing him change the topic abruptly, Chu Luiyue had the urge to pinch his little chubby face again. However, her remaining rationality made her hold back. If Dugumabao did not want to talk about it, it would be futile to ask him. Moreover, it might even accumulate more disdain. I broke through a few days after I entered the Beast Park. Chu Luiyue walked over and sat opposite Dugumabao. Dugumabao stared at her. I'll fight with you. Wonderful book house. Chapter 1285. What? Chu Luiyue's eyes widened slightly, almost suspecting that she had heard wrongly. You want to fight me? Chu Luiyue pointed at her nose and asked in disbelief. Dugumabao frowned. Why? You don't want to. That's not it. Chu Luiyue quickly denied. What a joke. It was difficult for ordinary people to meet a powerhouse of this level, and it was extremely rare to be able to fight with him and get some pointers. No matter how depressed she was, she wouldn't say, I don't want to. I'm just a little surprised. After all, she had known Dugumabao for so long. Other than playing chess, she had never really fought with him. Even when he trained her as a warrior, he only threw out a few puppets and never fought personally. Hence, Chu Luiyue was still very surprised when she heard him say this out of the blue. Although you're still a long way from becoming a god-level powerhouse, you're already a rank 8 warrior after all. It won't be that easy to fall apart in a fight. Dugumabao commented very calmly. Chu Luiyue's mouth twitched slightly. What are you saying? What do you mean it won't be that easy to fall apart? Is this the only effect I have after working so hard to break through to rank 8? Dugumabao glanced at her. Chu Luiyue said solemnly, Please advise me. The location of the two's battle was still in the room. Chu Luiyue looked at the expensive furniture around her and hesitated. Big Bao, are we really not going out to fight? This place is so small, we can't use our full strength, right? And if we destroy these furniture, it won't be good. There's no need for that. Dugumabao said lightly. Chu Luiyue choked. This was the most disdainful and contemptuous sentence she had ever heard in her life. She felt that she was usually good with words, but every time she met Dugumabao, she would always lose without any suspense. However, she couldn't think of any rebuttal. Who asked the other party to crush him in all aspects? She took a deep breath, and the expression in her eyes became much more serious. She slightly crossed her legs, and the muscles all over her body tightened. The origin power in her dantian also began to circulate rapidly. In just a split second, she had completely entered her battle mode. A faint look of satisfaction flashed across Dugumabao's eyes, and disappeared in an instant. Looks like I have not wasted my 1 month in the Beast Park. Chu Luiyue's combat strength was not weak, but it was more or less limited. After breaking through to the 8th rank, she persisted in her peak state, and fought with many mythological beasts for a month. She had almost completely improved her abilities in all aspects. Even though her level hadn't changed, her observation skills, sensitivity, and other aspects had all increased by more than a little. This was especially important in a battle between experts. Therefore, when she faced Dugumabao, she was able to quickly mobilize all the strength in her body. Chu Luiyue bent his knees slightly, and stared intently at Dugumabao. Whoosh! In the next moment, her figure vanished on the spot. She attacked first. She threw a punch. Then, Dugumabao raised his hand and straightened his palm in front of him. Boom! Chu Liuyue's punch was ruthlessly thrown out. Very quickly, it encountered an invisible and astonishing force and produced a dull sound. In an instant, her entire palm seemed to have collided with an extremely hard steel plate. Her mind went blank for a moment. But very quickly, intense numbness and soreness came from her palm. Her palm was almost shattered at this moment. A tyrannical force rebounded. Chu Liyue bore the brunt of the impact. Her body instantly flew backward and was about to hit the wall behind her. She gritted her teeth and quickly threw out a palm. She relied on the cushioning force to prevent herself from hitting the wall. Even so, this short exchange of energy caused her to lose her balance and almost fall to the ground. Chu Liyue held onto the armrest of the chair beside her and barely managed to stabilize her body. Looks like I have to continue practicing. Dugumabao's voice came from behind her. Chu Liyue pursed her lips and turned back to look. Dugumabao's expression was calm and indifferent. It was as if he had already expected all of this to happen. Chu Liyue's feelings were very complicated, because from the beginning to the end, she did not even touch Dugumabao's palm. He only raised his hand, and the aura around him was enough to crush her. Of course, she knew that she was no match for him. But she had never thought that her all-out attack was not even qualified to exchange blows with him. After a long while she said, Why did you want to exchange blows with me? There was a huge disparity in strength between the two of them. To her, this exchange of blows only had one meaning: to make her more aware of how weak she was. I just wanted you to understand that compared to the students in Lingxiao College, you are indeed the best. But today, you are still far from becoming a true powerhouse. Dugumabao retracted his hand. There seemed to be a glimmer of light in his demonic purple eyes. Chu Liyue laughed bitterly. She finally understood that Dugumabao's disdain for her every time he faced her was not an act. It was real. If she were him, she would disdain herself too. Immediately, her expression became serious, and she bowed to Dugumabao seriously. I will remember today's lesson. Dugumabao was willing to do this for her. She was very clear about this. One day, I will definitely be able to exchange blows with you fair and square. Dugumabao's lips curled up slightly, revealing an extremely rare smile. I'll be waiting. His smile was like a small flower that had suddenly bloomed on a frozen snowy mountain. He always had a cold expression on his face, and even Chu Liyue had barely seen him smile. Thus, she couldn't help but be dazed when she suddenly saw it. In the next moment, she finally could not help but take a few steps forward and pinch Dugumabao's face. Debao, you are so cute. 3 seconds later, Dugumabao walked out with a dark expression. Bang! The door was closed. In the room, Chu Liyue looked at the huge Xian formation in front of her and began to regret. Debao, I was wrong. I won't do it again. Dugumabao said coldly. If you can't solve it, don't come out. After saying that, his figure flashed and disappeared. Chu Liyue, who was left in the room, began to study the chessboard with a sorrowful expression. 15 minutes later, Dugumabao, this is not a level 9 Xian formation. Come back. However, Dugumabao had already disappeared without a trace. Chu Liyue could only continue to study the chessboard obediently. Sigh. She suddenly wanted to go back to the Beast Park. At least she would not be bullied so ruthlessly there. Chu Liyue sat in the room for a few hours. When it was close to evening, her eyes finally lit up. Here, mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1286. She raised her hand, and her slender and fair fingers danced lightly. A few rays of light flew out and intertwined in midair to form a small Xian formation. Then, she carefully placed it on a certain spot on the large Xian formation in front of her. Soon, the surrounding rays of light surged over and merged with the small Xian formation. Chu Liyue was delighted. This was a sign that the formation was about to be cracked. However, before her smile could be completely revealed, she saw the rays of light on the large Xian formation continue to surge and quickly drowned her small Xian formation. Chu Luiyue sighed in disappointment. This method of cracking the Xian formation was correct, but unfortunately, her current strength was too weak to contend against such a Xian formation. When her small Xian formation was completely swallowed, a silver light flashed before her eyes, and the large Xian formation quietly dissipated. Chu Luiyue heaved a sigh of relief. Looks like Debao doesn't want to use a Xian formation to make things difficult for me. I'll give you 3 months to completely crack this Xian formation. When the time comes, I'll review it. Dugu Mabao's voice suddenly rang in her ears. Chu Luiyue's heart skipped a beat, and she looked outside the door. It was silent outside, as if no one had been here. She rubbed her brows. 3 months. She really didn't know where Debao's confidence in her came from. But fortunately, she had basically memorized the Xian formation in her mind, and she could study it when she had time. She glanced at the sky, got up, and walked over to open the door. As she expected, the door that was sealed just now had quietly opened. Chu Luiyue thought for a while, walked out, and headed in the direction of Medicine Wind Valley. It was already evening. When Chu Luiyue arrived at Medicine Wind Valley, there weren't many people here. She saw Elder Meng Yi, who was still lying on the small broken wooden bed in the middle. He seemed to be sleeping with his head facing the sky. Occasionally, students would bring herbs over to settle accounts. After the previous incident, Chu Luiyue wouldn't really think that he was sleeping. The entire Medicine Wind Valley had always been under his control. Chu Luiyue didn't disturb him, and flew down to look for the herbs she needed. Chu Luiyue had just stood there, when he heard a surprised voice coming from the side. She looked back and laughed as well. Senior brother Zhongsun, why are you here as well? Zhongsun walked over and sized up Chu Luiyue a few times, his eyes filled with unconcealable curiosity. I should be the one asking you that. You haven't come out for a month. I haven't seen you for a while. Is it because senior brother Rongxiu has been giving you special guidance? Chu Luiyue's eyes flashed, then he smiled and said, yes. It seemed like these people didn't know that Rongxiu wasn't in the academy. No wonder. Zhongsun looked at Chu Luiyue with admiration and envy. Senior brother Rongxiu is ranked second on the Ascension rankings. With his guidance, I'll surely benefit greatly, right? Of course, Chu, you're very outstanding as well. You've ascended the Ascension rankings after coming to the academy for 2 months. It's a pity that this month's assessment just ended, and you didn't come. Otherwise, your ranking would definitely continue to rise, right? Only then did Chu Luiyue remember that she had been in the Beast Park for a month, and happened to miss the assessment at the beginning of this month. She smiled and shook her head. Senior brother Zhongsun, you flatter me. She thought for a moment and said, for example, that Lin Qifei ascended the Ascension rankings earlier than me. Zhongsun clicked his tongue. That's true. At the beginning of this month's assessment, he's already ranked 89th on the Ascension rankings. Chu Luiyue was a little surprised. Oh, so fast. Actually this isn't his true strength yet. Zhongsun looked around and lowered his voice. You haven't come out for a while, so it's normal that you don't know about this. Some time ago, during the Xian Masters joint class, Lin Qifei defeated Jiang Juan on the spot. Chu Luiyue's eyes flickered slightly. Jiang Juan isn't weak. To be able to defeat her, one can imagine how strong Lin Qifei is. Although that wasn't a real duel, and was just a competition on the chessboard, it was enough to prove how outstanding Lin Qifei is. As Zhongsun spoke, he was rather emotional. I heard that he's only in his early 20s and looks gentle and delicate. I didn't expect him to hide his strength so well. The Xian Masters all said that if he used his full strength, his ranking would be at least 30 places higher than his current ranking. But for some reason, he doesn't seem to be very interested in this. On the day of the assessment at the beginning of the month, he seemed to be just casually dealing with it. Not only Zhongsun, but many people also didn't know what Lin Qifei was thinking. In the academy, everyone wanted to ascend the Ascension rankings. The higher the ranking, the more glory they would receive. Many people couldn't ascend the rankings, even once until they left the academy, and it was a pity. However, this Lin Qifei didn't care much about this. However, this doesn't affect everyone's high opinion of him. Many people also said that he would be the most outstanding dark horse in the next few years. At this point, Zhongsun couldn't help but glance at Chu Luiyue. Of course, I'm talking about the Xian masters. Chu Luiyue couldn't help but laugh when she saw how careful he was. Senior brother Zhongsun, if you have anything to say, just say it. Don't worry about what I think. You really don't mind? Zhongsun asked in surprise. A month or two ago, especially after Chu Yu secretly left the academy and returned safely after helping senior brother Rongxiu, most people in the academy had already tacitly agreed that he was the most outstanding among the new students. But now the direction of the wind had already changed. More people were leaning towards Lin Qifei. No cultivator would really be indifferent in the face of such a change, right? I really don't mind. Chu Luiyue held back her laughter and said seriously. She knew Lin Qifei's talent and strength the best. Otherwise, she wouldn't have chosen to join forces with him back then. But now, why did it seem like everyone was secretly comparing the two of them? Recalling the scene of her fight with Dugu Mabao, Chu Luiyue couldn't help but sigh in her heart. With such a top expert by her side, how could she have the mood to care if Lin Qifei was stronger than her? Seeing that Chu Luiyue really didn't seem to mind, Zhongsun was relieved. That's good, that's good. In any case, you're now cultivating with Elder One Zheng and senior brother Rongxiu. Your future will definitely be limitless. Chu Luiyue thought for a moment and asked. You just said, Jiang Juan lost to Lin Qifei? What's going on? I remember that her strength is not bad. She's not bad, but she seemed to be in a bad state that day. Zhongsun said hesitantly. Otherwise, she wouldn't have said those words. Chu Luiyue raised her eyebrows slightly. What words? Zhongsun shook his head. It's just that she's still brooding over the position of Yuntian Tower's princess consort. In short, it's not anything good. After the competition, she asked for leave and returned to the immortal water tomb. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1287. Chu Luiyue raised her eyebrows slightly. Based on her understanding, most of the people in the academy had a good attitude towards Jiang Jiwan. On one hand, she came from a good family, and on the other hand, she was talented and strong. On the other hand, she was born beautiful and had always been gentle, lively, and elegant in front of others, so it was easy for people to like her. But now, from Zhongsun's tone, it seemed that he looked down on Jiang Jiwan. It seemed that Jiang Jiwan really had a serious slip of the tongue that day. As if he saw Chu Luiyue's doubts, Zhongsun simply repeated what happened that day. It's like this. Previously, everyone thought that she was the pitiful and innocent one who was being bullied. But after Lin Qifei stood up that day, everyone understood that the truth was not as she had preached. She was clearly inferior to others, but she still wanted to slander them. People who can do such things are not good people. Zhongsun pursed his lips, and a trace of annoyance flashed across his face. There were many students present that day, and many of them heard what she said. After that, her series of actions were really not presentable. I really didn't expect her to be like this. Now that I think about it, Senior Rongxiu has been keeping a respectful distance from her from the start. He must have seen through her a long time ago, right? Chu Luiyue did not say anything. Actually, Jiang Jiwan's control of her emotions had always been good. But when a person pretended for a long time, there would be a time when they would be exposed. No one knew what had happened to provoke her to this extent. From then on, her image in the hearts of the people in the academy had completely collapsed. Coupled with the fact that she had lost to Lin Qifei, it was like an army collapsing. In Lingxiao College, you could be aloof, you could be arrogant, you could be arrogant. But the premise was that you had to be strong enough. Without strength as a cornerstone, you would not be able to stand firm. I think she won't be coming back anytime soon. Chu Luiyue fell into deep thought. Obviously, Jiang Ziyuan was still brooding over the fact that Lin Mingya had become the princess. Otherwise, she would not have said those words on impulse until now. If she returned to the immortal water mausoleum. Chuyu, what are you thinking? Seeing that Chu Luiyue did not react for a long time, Zhongsun reached out his hand and waved it in front of her eyes. Chu Luiyue came back to his senses and smiled. It's nothing. I just feel that these things. Forget it. Anyway, this has nothing to do with us. We'll just be spectators. Senior Marshal Brother Zhong Sun, if there's nothing else, I'll go pick some herbs first. Zhong Sun hurriedly said, You go, you go. I've basically finished harvesting, so I won't delay you any further. After he finished speaking, he turned around and took 2 more stalks of medicinal herbs and quickly left. Chu Luiyue also retracted his gaze and began to look for the herbs he needed. The sky gradually darkened, and almost all the people in the Medicine Wind Valley had left. Chu Luiyue walked among the knee-high amethyst bone flowers and carefully selected them. Kid, you're not done yet? Elder Mengyi finally opened one of his eyes and asked lazily. Chu Luiyue was startled. She straightened her body and turned around. Only then did she realize that she was the only student left. She scratched her head in embarrassment. Elder, I really cupped my fists. This student was negligent and did not pay attention to the time. This student will pack up and leave now. Elder Mengyi suddenly sat up, picked up his palm leaf fan and scratched his bare feet. He laughed. Hee hee, kid. Do you know how many medicinal herbs you've taken away since you came in? This old man remembers that you've only been in the academy for 3 months. If you can't pay the points later, this old man won't let you leave so easily. So he was worried about this. Chu Luiyue heaved a sigh of relief and said with a smile, Thank you for your concern, Elder. However, my master said that I can take any medicinal herbs in the Medicine Wind Valley during this period of time and put them under his name. Oh! This time, Elder Mengyi finally opened both of his eyes. He stared at Chu Luiyue from head to toe for a while and asked suspiciously, That old man really said that? Yes. How would this student dare to lie about this kind of thing? This old man, could it be that he has changed his personality? Elder Mengyi couldn't help but murmur in a low voice. That Wan Zheng was old-fashioned and strict. How could he do such a thing? But Chu Yu, as a freshman, did not seem to dare to lie about this kind of thing. After all, whether it was true or not, he would know by asking Wan Zheng. Then this must be true. Elder Mengyi thought for a while and stroked his beard. In that case, this old man is relieved. If you want anything else, just take it as soon as possible. After he said that, Chu Luiyue was a little embarrassed to continue. She hurriedly said, This student has taken enough today. Moreover, it's already very late. I won't disturb you anymore. With that, she walked over and asked Elder Mengyi to count. Elder Mengyi picked up his green jade token and wrote a number on it. Enough. This old man knows very well what you took. There's no need to count anymore. This account. This old man will send it to him tomorrow. Elder. Chu Luiyue suddenly interrupted him. This student has a presumptuous request. I hope you can agree to it. Elder Mengyi lifted his eyelids and looked at her. What's the matter? Chu Luiyue coughed. Under Elder Mengyi's gaze, which seemed to see through everything, her face turned red and she felt a little embarrassed. This bill, can you wait for a month before sending it to my master? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1288. Elder Mengyi's gaze instantly became subtle. He waved the green jade token in his hand and revealed a meaningful smile. You mean you'll come again tomorrow? Chu Luiyue nodded shyly, which was rare for her. The day after tomorrow? Chu Luiyue nodded with an even redder face. You can't be coming for an entire month, right? Elder Mengyi's mouth twitched. No. How can a student do such a thing? Chu Luiyue hurriedly denied. She put her palms together and explained awkwardly and embarrassedly. You also know that I just broke through to the 9th grade celestial physician some time ago. It's the time when I consume the most medicinal herbs. Elder Mengyi looked at her with a strange gaze. No one else could come up with such a reason. There were so many 9th grade celestial physician students in the academy, but he had never seen any of them do this. Elder, you won't disagree, right? Chu Luiyue asked carefully. Elder Mengyi suddenly laughed. How can that be? Since Wan Zheng made such a promise to you, It proves that he thinks highly of you. All these years, he has only accepted you as his disciple. He can't wait to dote on you. What's wrong with spending some points on you? He waved his hand. Don't worry. This old man promises to give this list to him a month later. Chu Luiyue also laughed. Thank you, Elder. Elder Mengyi lay down again. Go. Chu Luiyue bowed and left. The Medicine Wind Valley regained its silence. A light breeze blew, and the rich fragrance of medicinal herbs filled the air. Elder Mengyi lay on the small wooden bed with his legs crossed. He patted the cattail leaf fan in his hand and muttered in a low voice. Ha Wanzheng, that old fellow. This time, he's going to bleed heavily. He turned his head and looked in a certain direction of the Medicine Wind Valley. In the night, a huge Xian formation flickered with an extremely faint glow, enveloping everything. It also isolated that place. Elder Mengyi's gaze deepened. He was silent for a while before he chuckled. It's been a long time since I've seen such a troublesome child. She's quite similar to you. I've always kept your herb garden for you. Why didn't that wretched girl come back to take a look? In the end, he shook his head and closed his eyes again. There was a hint of longing and helplessness in his eyes. How worrisome. It was a peaceful night. In the blink of an eye, it was the next day. Early in the morning, Chu Luiyue simply tidied up and went straight to Elder Wanzheng's residence. When she arrived, she realized that Elder Wanzheng was already waiting for her. After chatting for a while, the master and disciple went straight to the point. Elder Wanzheng first exchanged a few moves with Chu Luiyue. After confirming that she was indeed stronger than she looked, he felt both proud and curious. But in the end, he suppressed the impulse in his heart and did not ask about Chu Luiyue's background. Now you can already refine pills of the 9th grade. According to your talent and comprehension, it shouldn't be long before you can reach the next level and refine pills of the peak of the 9th grade. Elder Wanzheng said as he took out a book and handed it over. Chu Luiyue took it with both hands and saw a few big words written on it. Physician's Medicine Manual. Chu Luiyue looked up in surprise. Master, this is... Above the 9th grade celestial physician is the physician. Elder Wanzheng put one hand behind his back and said seriously, among all the medical books that can be borrowed in the academy, the highest grade prescription is the peak of 9th grade. Above that were the private stashes of the various elders. This book was passed down to me by my master. Now, it's time to pass it down to you. The heritage of a celestial physician was extremely private, and the higher one's rank was, the more so it became. Under normal circumstances, it was already difficult for a top-notch celestial physician to groom a disciple who was on par with him. Just this disciple alone required a great deal of effort. The fact that Elder Wanzheng had passed this book to her was proof of how much he valued Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue felt a warmth in her heart. She gripped the medical book tightly and said solemnly, "Thank you for your teachings, Master. Your disciple will cultivate diligently in the future and not let you down." Elder Wanzheng sighed and patted her shoulder. "You've always been a sensible girl, so I'm not worried at all. Take this medical book back and study it carefully. If there's anything you don't understand, feel free to ask." Chu Luiyue nodded vigorously. Time always passed swiftly when one was focused on cultivating. In the blink of an eye, it was afternoon, and Chu Luiyue was about to leave. She looked at the sky and suddenly remembered that Dumpling was still at Thousand Wine Mountain. She wondered how she was doing. "Master, is Thousand Wine Mountain open?" Elder Wanzheng paused and calculated the time. "It should be open soon. It was supposed to open 2 days ago, but for safety reasons, Bo Yan and the rest delayed it for a few days. If I remember correctly, it will open the day after tomorrow." As he spoke, he looked at Chu Luiyue cautiously. "Why? What do you want to do this time?" He clearly remembered that out of the 3 times that Chu Luiyue was punished, 2 of them were related to Thousand Wine Mountain. This caused him to be traumatized at the mention of Thousand Wine Mountain. Chu Luiyue hurriedly said, Nothing, I was just asking casually." "I'm telling you, you're not allowed to go there casually," Elder Wanzheng warned her. "Previously, Bo Yan didn't punish you severely because you wanted to refine the artifact's soul, and Shang Yusen tried his best to protect you. If you do it again, even I won't help you anymore." Chu Luiyue sighed in her heart. It seemed that she no longer had any credibility with the elders. Yes, your disciple will remember it. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1289. In the following period of time, Chu Luiyue stayed obediently in Ninehung Mountain. For some reason, De Bao did not appear again. Chu Luiyue did not know where he had gone, nor did she know how to find him. Thus, she decided to stay in her own place and cultivate in peace. Sometimes, she would study the Xian formation left behind by De Bao, and sometimes she would flip through the doctor's medicine manual that Elder Wanzheng had given her. Chu Luiyue originally thought that these two things would consume a lot of brain power and energy. After all, with her current strength, it would be very difficult for her to comprehend these things. But soon, she realized that the truth was completely different from what she had expected. When she was learning these things, she did not feel that it was too difficult. In fact, occasionally, she would even feel a subtle sense of familiarity. It was as if she knew how to do it all along. Chu Luiyue hid these thoughts extremely well and cultivated quietly as usual. The only thing she was worried about was Dumpling. A month had passed, but Dumpling had yet to come out. She did not know how it was doing during this period of time. According to the Three-Eyed Eagle, such a long time should be enough for Dumpling to completely activate the power of its bloodline. What made her even more uneasy was that the opening of Thousand Wine Mountain had been delayed again and again. Many students in the academy were puzzled by this, but most of them did not delve into it. After all, to them, Thousand Wine Mountain was just a place where they could occasionally relax and have fun. Even if it was closed for a month, or even 3 to 5 months, it would not affect them much. However, Chu Luiyue sensed that something was amiss. She had tried to inquire about Thousand Wine Mountain several times, but it was to no avail. In the end, because she was afraid of arousing suspicion, she could only temporarily quiet down and wait silently. Right now, no news should be the best news. Before Chu Luiyue could hear the news of Thousand Wine Mountain opening, another person arrived first. Shang Yusen. The moment Chu Luiyue saw that it was him, she understood why he was here. Greetings, Elder. Chu Luiyue stepped forward and bowed respectfully. Shang Yusen glanced at the barrier of Ninehung Mountain behind her, and could not help but say, Rong Xiu really thinks highly of you. Not only did he drag you to Thousand Wine Mountain, but he even let you stay here. He shrugged. You have to know that even we don't have the qualifications. Chu Luiyue smiled and asked, You're here for that thing? Shang Yusen. I didn't expect you to be even more straightforward. Let's get to the point. You've helped me so much before. If I still beat around the bush with you now, wouldn't that be too much? Shang Yusen enjoyed Chu Luiyue's words. Good. Then let's not waste any more time. Let's go. Chu Luiyue paused. Where? Shang Yusen looked at her with a strange expression. Of course we're going to my territory. You can't be thinking of showing it to me right here, right? Chu Luiyue thought about it and agreed. After all, it was a rare treasure, and other than the elders, the students in the academy did not know about it. If Shang Yusen wanted to study it, he naturally had to choose a safe and hidden place. It was best to go to his place. Chu Luiyue nodded. Elder is wise. Shang Yusen stayed with the artificers. This was the first time Chu Luiyue had come here, so she was somewhat curious. Unlike the other 3 regions, which were bustling with activity, this place was deserted. If it weren't for the fact that Chu Luiyue could sense the few strong and hidden auras in the mountains, she would have really thought that there was no one here. However, after entering, Chu Luiyue noticed even more differences. The innermost mountains were all barren, and many of them were already charred black. It seemed that they had triggered too much Tianlei to become like this. In the canyon between the mountains, all kinds of artificing materials that were rarely seen in the outside world could be seen everywhere, as if they were free. There were also some failed yuan tools that were piled up into small mountains. In fact, not all of them were incomplete. Some of them did not meet the standards that the artificers wanted, so they were casually thrown away. Chu Luiyue was sure that if she took out the few at the edge, People would definitely swarm to her if she took them out. However, it was clear that they did not intend to do so. Chu Luyue looked around and could not help but sigh in her heart. These artificers' elders were really carefree and rich. Some of those yuan tools should still be usable, right? Wouldn't it be a pity to throw them away just like that? After walking for a while, Chu Luyue finally could not help but ask. Shang Yusen followed her gaze and shook his head indifferently. What's the point of taking those scrap metals? It's fine to throw them away. It'll be embarrassing if they get out. Oh. Chu Luyue responded silently. She really did not understand the world of artificers. Here, my residence is in front. Shang Yusen pointed forward. When I return to the academy, I'll stay there. Chu Luyue took a look and found that it was an inconspicuous mountain. However, Shang Yusen's words made her feel a little surprised. Haven't you always been in the academy? Shang Yusen nodded. Yes. Usually, I'll only stay here for about 2 months a year. This year, the situation is a little special. I just happened to be here for a breakthrough, so I stayed until now. Chu Luyue's eyes widened slightly. As far as she knew, most of the elders in the academy lived in the academy all year round. She had never seen someone like Shang Yusen, who only stayed for 2 months a year. As if seeing her doubts, Shang Yusen laughed. Why are you so surprised? I'm not an official elder of the academy, so I can't stay here for a long time. Chu Luyue was really shocked this time. You're not an official elder? That's right. Shang Yusen flew forward and landed directly. Chu Luyue followed closely behind. I'm a member of the Shang family of the Illusory Sky Manor. It's already extremely rare for me to be able to bear the title of elder in the academy. If it was someone from another first-rate family, they wouldn't even be able to do this. This short sentence contained too much information. Chu Luyue's mind spun quickly, and she quickly understood. The Illusory Sky Manor was the same as the Yuntian Tower, a first-rate family in the Divine Ruins world. A disciple with such a background could study in Lingxiao College, but he could not become an elder here. Since the day Lingxiao College was established, there has been this rule. It's still the same today. It's also because of this that the academy can always maintain a neutral position in the Divine Ruins world and maintain a relatively balanced relationship with the major families and sections. Chu Luyue nodded thoughtfully. Then, for you to be able to become an elder, you must have something extraordinary, right? Shang Yusen laughed. You're wrong about that. The reason why I can become half an elder of the academy is because I once saved the dean's precious disciple. Chu Luyue's heart suddenly jumped. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 1290. It's a long story, and I don't think you'd like to hear it. Shang Yusen didn't seem to have any intention of continuing. Chu Luyue's lips moved and said, Actually, after coming to the academy, I've heard a lot of rumors about that person. Shang Yusen glanced at her with some surprise, then immediately smiled in understanding. That's true. The Azure Cloud role has always been there, but her name has been erased. It's inevitable that there will be some news below. Unlike the other elders who were somewhat secretive, Shang Yusen's attitude seemed to be much more relaxed when he mentioned this. Perhaps it was because he wasn't an official elder of the academy. Chu Luyue thought to herself. Actually, speaking of which, the two of you are very similar in many ways. Shang Yusen sized up Chu Luyue. Back then, when she first came to the academy, she was also sent to Pengmin Mountain on the second day. After she came out, she kept making mistakes, but the dean protected her, and the elders also doted on her. Therefore, they turned a blind eye and couldn't bear to punish her severely. He let out a sigh of regret. Unfortunately later, his voice stopped abruptly. Chu Luyue had mixed feelings when she heard this. In fact, after coming to the academy, she vaguely sensed that the elders were very tolerant of her back then, and even indulged her. Otherwise, how could they let a student like her open the academy's barrier at will? In the end, they were biased. Unfortunately, she didn't remember any of this. She didn't even have any impression of Shang Yusen saving her. Forget it. These old things are in the past. Shang Yusin quickly adjusted and looked at Chu Luiyue expectantly. That Scarlet Heaven sword. Chu Luiyue lightly nodded, and a thought popped up in her mind as she summoned Qi Xiao sword. She handed the sword over. Elder, please. Shang Yusin's breathing stagnated, and his eyes seemed to be glued to Scarlet Heaven's sword. Excitement, eagerness, emotion. That was the look of waiting for so many years. He took a deep breath and stretched out his hand to receive the sword. But halfway through, he hurriedly wiped his hand on his clothes, and then carefully and sincerely received the sword. Although Chu Luiyue knew that he liked Scarlet Heaven's sword, he didn't expect him to be so serious about it. This had already become his obsession. Shang Yusin held the scabbard in one hand and the hilt in the other, holding his breath in concentration. After he calmed down a little, he began to slowly pull out Scarlet Heaven's sword. A gleam of snow, cold and sharp. Just by looking at it, he felt as if he was going to be cut by that terrifying sword Qi. Shang Yusin's face was flushed with excitement, and his eyes were shining. The venerable artifact, it really lives up to its name. His eyes swept across the top of the table. This included every pattern on the scabbard, the dragon head on the hilt, and the blade that was polished to perfection. Every part of it was done to perfection. Chu Luiyue watched from the side, as he couldn't hide his excitement. For a moment he felt rather emotional. Perhaps this was what a true refiner was like. He would always hold reverence and admiration for the top artifact. It was hard to imagine that a person who had always been arrogant and carefree would have such a sincere and serious moment. Clang! Shang Yusin finally pulled out the sword. This sword was more than 1,000 caddies heavy, and even he had to struggle to pick it up. The powerful pressure almost made it hard for him to breathe. But Shang Yusin still insisted on picking it up. Only his hands were trembling badly. Chu Luiyue narrowed her eyes. Strange. This sword wasn't heavy when she held it in her hand. Why did it become like this in Shang Yusin's hand? Even when she and Jean Lei fought for this thing in the beginning, it hadn't recognized its owner yet. And its weight didn't seem to be so exaggerated. She thought for a moment and asked her doubts. Shang Yusin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Silly. This Scarlet Heaven sword didn't have a soul before, so of course it was just ordinary. That's why so many people fought for it. Now that you have refined its soul and become its owner, it will naturally be 10 times, or 100 times heavier than before. With that, he finally couldn't hold on any longer, and put down the Scarlet Heaven sword. The tip of the sword stabbed into the ground, and a huge crack instantly appeared. He gasped for breath and said, "Do you think everyone is as lucky as you?" Chu Luiyue suddenly realized. So that's how it is. Thank you for your guidance, Elder. Shang Yusin raised a finger and pointed at her. You. Sigh, this world is really unfair. He had been longing for this Scarlet Heaven sword for so many years, but in the end, it was all for naught. And Chu, he didn't know anything about it, but he had inexplicably become the owner of the Scarlet Heaven sword. Comparing oneself to others would only make one angry. This was exactly what they meant. Meeting Chu Luiyue's clear and clean eyes, he couldn't say a word again. Forget it. What's the point of saying all this now? Here, I'll return it to you. Shang Yusin sent the Scarlet Heaven sword towards Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue was a little surprised. You're not going to take a closer look? Didn't you say that you wanted to observe and study it? You seem to be looking at it a little too quickly. Shang Yusin couldn't help but laugh again. I want to see its structure. What do you think I'm looking at? Even if I look at it for a day or a month, it won't be mine anymore. Hurry up. This thing is too heavy, he urged. Chu Luiyue reached out and took the Scarlet Heaven sword back. She raised it and took a look. You just said that you want to see its structure. Is this very important? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1291. Of course it's important. At the mention of this, Shang Yusin immediately perked up and began to explain to Chu Luiyue. Refining is refining materials into treasures. Whether or not you can refine an outstanding yuan instrument depends on the materials and the structure. These two factors determine the amount of tianlei tempering it can withstand. You must know that the more Tianlei is triggered, the stronger the yuan instrument will be, and naturally, the more useful it will be. Look at this scarlet cloud sword. It's top-notch in all aspects. Only in this way can you refine a venerable artifact. He sighed. Back then, that person exhausted his blood, sweat, and energy to refine this scarlet cloud sword. It's a pity that it was buried deep in the dark feathers abyss for thousands of years and never saw the light of day. Now that it's in your hands, you can inherit it. If that person's spirit is in heaven, he should be quite pleased, right? The higher the level of the yuan instrument, the harder it is to comprehend the mysteries hidden in it. This scarlet cloud sword is the same. I only stared at it for a while just now, and I already felt a little uncomfortable. But whether I can comprehend it or not is still unknown. Shang Yusen said very honestly. It's a pity that you're not a blacksmith. If you are, and you have such a treasure in your hands, it'll be much more convenient for you than others. If you're talented enough, you might have the chance to refine a powerful divine artifact in the future. There was no lack of regret in his words. Chu Luiyue listened quietly, but his heart skipped a beat. A blacksmith? Strictly speaking, she should be considered half a blacksmith, right? The first thing a true weapon refiner needed to do was to be able to trigger heavenly lightning. A cultivator could only be sure if they had the talent to become a blacksmith after breaking through the shackles and becoming a god-level powerhouse. As for whether she had the potential to become a blacksmith, she would only know after she broke through to god-level powerhouse. Shang Yusen casually found a place to sit cross-legged. I'll meditate for a while first. You can look around. By the way, there are many things piled up at the back of the mountain. If there's anything you like, just take it. After saying that, he closed his eyes as if he was really going to cultivate. Chu Luiyue hesitated for a moment and could not help but ask. Elder, there's something I want to ask you. Shang Yusen's eyes were still closed, calm and composed. Speak. Chu Luiyue paused. I caused so much trouble on Thousand Wine Mountain the other day. I wonder if it's fixed now. Shang Yusen snorted and looked at her. You're still concerned about this? Don't worry. The damage you caused that day was not small, but during this period of time, we have been repairing it overnight. Basically, it is as good as new. Then why hasn't it been opened yet? Chu Luiyue quickly added. I thought it was because I caused too much of a problem. I've been feeling very uneasy. Shang Yusen did not suspect anything and waved his hand. Don't worry, the 10,000 Wine Mountain is fine. As for why it hasn't been open recently, Bo Yan has his own considerations, so you don't have to worry. After asking for a long time, Chu Luiyue had no choice but to give up. Seeing that Shang Yusen had already begun to cultivate, Chu Luiyue thought for a moment and decided to stroll around. Since it was rare for her to come here, she naturally had to take a good look. Moreover, her name was also on the weapon refining ranking, which meant that she had some talent in this area back then. Looking around, she might be able to recall something. The surroundings were silent. Moreover, there was not much to see on the mountain, probably because refining would cause Tianlei to stir. There was not even a place to stay on the mountain. Instead, there were traces of refining everywhere. This was the territory of Shang Yusen, who only stayed in the academy for 2 months a year. If it were anyone else, half of the mountain would have been split open. Unknowingly, Chu Luiyue walked to the back of the mountain. Her eyes lit up. There were indeed many good things piled up here. Weapon refiners would collect all kinds of precious materials to prepare for refining, but they might not really be used. Just like the things piled up here. Any one of them should be able to be exchanged for a lot of money. It had to be said that weapon refiners were even prouder than Celestial Physician. They were not even worried that their things would be stolen. Chu Luiyue walked over to take a look and picked a few interesting things. Suddenly her eyes narrowed. On a small mountain of all kinds of jade, there seemed to be a palm-sized jade pendant sandwiched in the middle. Under the sunlight it shone faintly. This jade pendant was completely white, clear and lustrous. Probably because it had been there for some time, there were already some traces of time on it. Placed in this pile of jade, it really did not stand out. However, Chu Luiyue's eyes were fixed on the jade pendant, her heart beating violently. She reached out and carefully took off the jade pendant, placing it in the palm of her hand to examine it carefully. It was a round jade pendant. At the bottom corner, there was a fingernail-sized defect, as if it was accidentally broken. Looking at it carefully, there were a few thin cracks at the edge of the defect. It was as if the jade pendant would completely shatter with a light touch. However, these were not the main points of Chu Liyue's attention. What she cared about was the pattern on it. In the middle of the jade pendant, there was a pattern of a sword cutting off a dragon's head. She could not be more familiar with this pattern. Chu Liyue's hand trembled slightly as she turned the jade pendant over. On the back, there were two small engraved words that were extremely worn out. However, after wiping off the dust, the words were still clear and legible. Heavenly Order. This was something from the Tianling dynasty. At this moment, Chu Liyue was extremely sure. This pattern, this engraved words, all of them showed its origin. Most importantly, this handwriting. If she was not mistaken, it was Taizu's handwriting. Chu Liyue suppressed her violently beating heart and said softly, "Taizu." Sensing that her mood seemed to be a little off, Taizu's voice carried a trace of worry. "You are what's wrong?" Chu Liyue tried to make her voice sound as calm as possible. "There's something that I want you to personally identify. I wonder if it's convenient for you to come out?" Taizu only hesitated for a moment before coming out of Scarlet Heaven's sword. Although it was somewhat inappropriate for him to appear here, and he might even be noticed by the people of Lingxiao College, he was more concerned about Chu Liyue. Chu Liyue handed over the jade pendant. "Taizu, please take a look. Is this yours?" Taizu stepped forward and took a closer look. With just one look, his expression abruptly changed. Chu Liyue immediately confirmed in her heart that this was Taizu's item. Sure enough, Taizu immediately said, This is indeed my jade pendant. Why would it appear here?" Chu Liyue pointed at the gap above. "Taizu, there are bloodstains in these cracks. Is this yours?" Mobile user, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.